Hello, 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 everybody. Pop Culture Curator here. And this is Tuesday evening. For those of you watching this live, which means if it's Tuesday evening, this must be one of our horror sci fi streams. And I know that some of the people came into the chat relatively early. I want to say hello and cover you first because without the chat, we are nothing. So, hello, Lemon Pie. Thank you for joining us
Lemon.
tonight. Lemon Pie says hello, Pop. And then hello, Phantom Boomer. So good to see you. Phantom Boomer says a Pop Culture Curator. Howdy, howdy. And Phantom Boomer says hello, Lemon Pie. And Lemon Pie says hello, Phantom. And I don't need to read my own. So there we go with that. And most of all, I'd like to say hello to my esteemed fellow panelists. Gorillas Random Thoughts, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. Yeah, there's no gore in this movie. No gore at all. It's all wholesome there. There's no gore.
What? You thought it was gory?
Ah,
Uh,
no, it wasn't too bad there. I'll give you props. At least when it wasn't like a freaking sprinkler going off. Going.
right, that's what I was
No,
saying last night. There's no blood splatters and all that kind of stuff. You get a few
yeah.
drops, maybe.
No, well, you had a whole gutty corpse in there.
Nemesis, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing well, pops. Thanks for having me. Hello to the
Oh,
chat. Oh my
fantastic.
God, I hit the ceiling out. Jesus. Yeah, no. Hello to the chat. Hello to everyone. Thank you so much for being here, Basil, Lemon. Appreciate it, you guys.
Oh, yeah,
All the
Basil
lurkers.
Battle Dragon. Hi, guys.
Phantom
Cheers.
Boomer
Good to see
too.
you, Basil. Lemon Pie says, Hail Nemesis, and Hail Gorilla. Lemon Pie says, Hi, Basil. Nemesis Eden says, Hail Lemon Pie. And Basil says, Hi, Lemon Pie. How are you? Yeah, thank you, Basil, and Nemesis of Eden, and Lemon Pie, and everybody else for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I hope we have a good turnout like last week. Thanks to wonderful Nemesis of Eden, his fantastic suggestion for Tremors. Last week was a blast. I had such a great time, and we had a wonderful turnout.
Oh, dude, it was amazing. Yeah, it was a ton of fun. I was really happy with that. That was great. Thank you for again for watching that for my birthday. Appreciate it.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine, and I'm glad I was able to do that for you. So I'm still a little under the weather, but I'm getting better. I'm getting more and more energy every day. So I'm able to talk a little more. I know I'm still going to need Gorillas Random Thoughts to help back me up on the chat because especially if I'm going to be covering the movie, and sometimes I'm getting a little winded, and I don't want to hear you guys hearing me cough and choke and all that stuff on the microphone. And Phantom Boomer says Nemesis of Eden, Basil Battle Dragon, and Gorilla Hello.
Yeah, hey there,
Nemesis of
Phantom.
Eden, Nemesis of Eden says don't forget Phantom Boomer. Absolutely, Phantom Boomer. Good to see you. And Basil says we are missing the great Orla Greg. I hope he can make it tonight and join us. And by the way, Herc, that reminds me, Phantom Boomer and I were talking earlier. Herc 130. I did follow him on Twitter, and I think he followed me on. I'm not sure really how it works. I'm kind of new with Twitter, but with Herc 130, I did follow him, and I think he followed me. And I think I sent a tweet saying hello, how you doing? And then I think once he responds to that, I think I can allow him into our stream group because the last time I tried to add him, I didn't have it showed him it wasn't in the list. So I'm going to keep trying to add him until I can finally get him in there, and that way he can join the rest of us and post whenever he has live streams. So I have been working on that. And that reminds me also, anybody out there who's listening to this stream, if you'd like to, we have a group on Twitter that anytime one of us is broadcasting a stream, we just drop a link in there and let everybody know at the same time. It saves a lot of time and effort, and that way people can join your stream, and it'll help raise your subs and everyone's awareness. And if you're not already part of that group, then follow me on Twitter. I'll put my name right now in the chat. This will be my Twitter handle. I think it's called a handle. Just look for me on Twitter under this name, and then I will follow you back. Just hit, look for that name and hit follow. I will follow you back, and then make sure once I follow you, message me and say, hey, hello. I think we have to message back and forth before Twitter officially makes us friends. And then once that happens, I can add you to our streaming group. Oh, good. I'm glad to see Stream Elements decided to come out of the grave and work tonight. Let's just see what happens with that one, huh? Sometimes it can tend to be a little unpredictable. Okay, so without further ado, I know we're going to try it. Last week I felt kind of bad, even though yes, we had a great time, and we like to talk about Tremors a lot because it's such a good movie, and we haven't even gotten to the sequels yet. But tonight I'm hoping that we can keep this stream a little shorter. I felt bad because I know like for Gorilla, it was going on close to midnight, and I felt really bad. So tonight I'm going to try to keep this one maybe around 2 hours or less if I can. And the movie is an hour and a half, so maybe 2.5 hours tops. That way he can
Yeah,
go.
that's kind of what I was thinking, right? 2 minutes per, 2-to-1 ratio, basically. Give us 2 minutes to talk for every 1 minute of film.
Yes, right. And anybody who was here last week and anybody who's aware of Tremors, you guys realize, I'm sure, that it was a very fast-paced movie full of action. This movie's a little slower paced. It was 1981, so there's kind of a build-up. And I'll give you a little bit of a background. What happened was the special effects guy is the same guy who worked on The Thing. So this movie, The Howling, basically what happened, and anybody who's into makeup effects has heard of the great Stan Winston and
Yep.
Rick Baker. They were all kind of working together, and what happened was they were working on The Howling here, and they were putting it together. But unfortunately, that's when the project came through with John Landis for American Werewolf in London. So he pulled a lot of the effects guys out of it. To work on American Werewolf in London. So that's why, if anybody has seen that movie, you'll notice that the transformation sequences are very similar to in The Howling. But that's
Okay.
why when some people have seen The Howling, they'll say, well, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of transformation sequences. Well, the reason why is because the special effects guy were pulled in all these different directions to go work on different things. And for anybody who doesn't know, we will be covering American Werewolf in London. That was the first movie to win an Academy Award for special makeup effects. Up to that point, there was no category for that. So it was about time. And Werewolf in London was the one that created that category. But
Cool.
now, yeah, and especially because all the effects back then were practical. So to me, I highly honor all those great makeup masters from back in the day. They deserved a lot more credit than what they got. I love practical effects any day, much more than CGI.
Oh, 100%.
Yes, the Howling, the movie we're getting ready to watch, is directed by Joe Dante. I don't know if you guys recognize his name or not, but he came from the Roger Corman School of Acting and Directing. So we're going to get a couple cameos tonight, which I'll point out when we get there. And also, he went on to do like Gremlins and things like that. And he also directed that. If anybody saw Twilight Zone the movie, he did the episode where the kid was wishing people into the cornfield, and everything he was dreaming up looked like a Warner Brother cartoons, like Looney Tunes. Including, he even had the Tasmanian Devil because he was a big Looney Tune Warner Brother fan. So if you look at the great Joe Dante, you will see that he made a lot of good movies. Oh, Inner Space is another one. I could go on and on about Joe Dante. But he also had a stable of steady actors that he liked to use over and over. So tonight, some examples of that is we're going to get Kevin McCarthy, the great Kevin McCarthy from The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which we covered about a month or so ago. And we're also going to get a very early role of Robert Picardo that you guys might remember as the Doctor on Voyager, I believe. But I prefer him in this better than I do on Voyager. But no offense to the Star Trek fans, but I'm a big werewolf fan. Um, the Howling is a straight up horror movie. I'll make this fast. Blah blah blah. I know you're like, okay, we shut up and get to the movie, but this is a straight up horror movie. There's not a lot of humor in it. I mean, there might be a couple nudge winks here and there, but when they moved into American Werewolf in London and started working on that, anybody who's seen it knows that that's almost a comedy more than a horror movie. So it has a completely different feeling than The Howling itself. And I know you're going to shoot me now, but that's the reason why I like The Howling more than American Werewolf in London. And if you remember right, in American Werewolf in London, we didn't see the werewolf until nearly the end of the movie as well. And then when we did, it was only for a few seconds. So in both movies, it takes a lot of patience to get there. So it's the plot of the movie that you have to pay attention to. Oh, and also we get the great Patrick Macnee in this movie. So anybody who's a fan of the Avengers series from the 1960s, yes, we're going to get the great Patrick Macnee. So without further ado, let me get ready to share my screen. I'll shut up. And I think I already had the subtitles selected. Let me make sure I do. I hope you guys don't mind the Gilligan's Island subtitles. They seem to be working. And I remember I saw this movie twice at the theaters. I saw it once to walk in, and then I took friends to see it at the drive-in. Yes, the famous Abco Embassy symbol. It was Roger Corman's at the time. We get our opening and the glass shattering. And by the way, I don't know if anybody remembers, but the great Dee Wallace was one of the original screen queens. She starred in this, and then she also starred in Cujo, and she was also in the movie The Frighteners. And you might remember her as the mother in the movie E.T., among many,
Yeah.
many others. So I'm a huge fan of Dee Wallace. Beautiful woman, and by the way, she still looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Without
Hey there,
no
mad.
plastic, none of that. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say, hey there, mad scientist. You're about 3 weeks too late for that.
Oh, Mad Scientist is in the chat. Good to see you, Mad Scientist.
Yeah, he's asking about the snow woman. It's been about 3 weeks.
May have to get one made out of dirt. I guess something that doesn't melt.
Gorilla was too
Okay.
hot for her. She melted away.
Yeah, she melted away. She was trying to escape, I guess. So here we are with Patsy Macnee and Dennis Dugan, and we get our cast. And what we hear is, you can hear, is an announcer over a radio station. So that's what we're going to open up here in a radio station. And the
I was hearing
fabulous
like
Kevin
three
McCarthy.
different. I've seen about 3 different things. There are like 3 different stations there. Did that say Kevin McCarthy?
Yes, Kevin McCarthy.
You serious?
And yes, the reason why.
The Speaker of the House was
Go ahead.
in this movie.
Wait, say that again.
The Speaker of the House was in this movie.
No. Same name, different person.
Okay.
And there was
okay.
also, yeah, there was also another guy named Kevin McCarthy, who was a producer on the show Jeopardy for a long time. So
All
it
right.
seems to be a common name.
I'll retract my whatever the lowest score I could possibly give to this. Then.
Yeah,
I'll
he would have to
retract
be,
that.
he would have to be extremely old if it was the same Kevin McCarthy.
No
And
automatic F today. I'm shocked.
No, I just retracted that because as soon as I seen Kevin McCarthy there, I was gonna be like, I'm giving this like the lowest absolute possible score for you.
Okay, so Gorilla, you know what the Speaker of the House, you know what he looks like, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then you'll see when I point this one out how it's definitely a different man. And the reason why you're hearing different voices overlapping is because this movie, as you guys see, when it opens, it begins inside of a television studio, and they have different monitors playing different feeds from different things because they're editing them together. And the wonderful Slim Pickens, who's I don't know if you guys know him, but he's a excellent. He was an excellent, fantastic character actor who originally made his start as a rodeo cowboy and dummy. He would get attacked by like bulls and things like that. He's originally, even though he's got a really heavy accent. Excuse me. Time to take a drink.
Oh. Well, Pop's doing that. Brazil says, Curator, I looked over the list of videos you have. It's great. Look forward to watching a few of them. And
All right.
Lemon Pie says, LOL, Gorilla.
Yeah, what a time to turn my mic off. Jeez. Oh no, my other phone's dying. I'm gonna plug that in so I can keep up with the chat. So, Gorilla, have you seen An American Werewolf in London? Because I haven't.
No.
Oh,
I don't
Okay.
watch a lot of
Ooh,
horror.
I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. Oh, dude, like I remember seeing the dream sequence as a child, just turning on the TV and watching Buddy get his throat split open, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
And I
but
like.
that's bad you saw it out of context.
Oh, I did, right? Like, it's like how I jumped into Texas Chainsaw Massacre instead of seeing it at the beginning of the movie. Oh, getting off topic.
That's okay, but yeah, it's too bad because it does ruin movies when you see them out of sequence like that, or not from the beginning. So, yeah, Slim Pickens, like I said, I'll point him out. As soon as I do, you guys, a lot of you, I'm sure, will recognize him. But what's interesting is he's actually from Hanford, California. So even though he sounds like he's from the deep south and he acts like it, he's actually a California man. So we start with our introduction, and the first actor is Patrick Macnee, who is doing an interview. And there is Robert Picardo, very young Robert Picardo, as Eddie. and he's a psychologist. I'm talking about Patrick Macnee, the guy being interviewed right here. He's a psychologist, and he's promoting his new book. There's is Kevin McCarthy, Gorilla, the guy that's standing up there in the middle. That's Kevin McCarthy, the actor. And like I said, for any of you that was with us on our Invasion of the Body Snatchers stream a month or two ago, you'll recognize him from that. They're here. They're here. You're next. That's him.
Oh, dude, really? Oh, amazing.
Yes, Joe Dante loved Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So when he snagged Kevin McCarthy for this movie, you'll also see Kevin McCarthy in several other Joe Dante movies. So I'm glad it revived his career.
Yeah.
So real good
Yeah,
for
that's
him.
sweet. That's awesome. Yeah.
Here we got 3 chats here. Leon
Thank you,
Pie
Gorilla.
agrees with me. He says I am like Gorilla in that I don't watch horror generally speaking. However, it's fun to participate when you guys go through these. Then
Well,
hello,
I'm glad you're here.
yeah, and hello, Jim's Landscaping. Welcome, welcome.
Good to see you, Jen. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, even if you guys have not seen the movie, I am glad you're here to enjoy this stream with us. And I hope I don't spoil the experience for you. And I do
Oh, not
recommend
at all,
you,
Poppy.
if you're not a horror fan, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping maybe eventually you'll give these movies a try. There we are, directed by the great Joe Dante. And we open here with the wonderful, beautiful Dee Wallace. And she's playing a reporter on the seedy side of town doing an investigative report on a supposed murderer named Eddie.
Hello, Jim. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being here.
Jim's a fantastic guy. Check out his channel, everybody. I got my Stream Elements bot hopefully programmed to plug his channel. Jim, if you don't see your channel up there, please let me know. I will make sure I add it. Have to pick up my dog. And by the way, another one of the stars of this movie is Christopher Stone, the guy you see standing up with the white sweater. That was Dee Wallace's husband in real life. So her stage name that she was known by was Dee Wallace, but her full name is actually Dee Wallace Stone. And Christopher there was her actual husband. He plays her husband in this movie as well. Unfortunately, he died at a relatively young age, tragically. In fact, I was talking to her about it on Twitter just a couple months ago. She's really sweet and she's open to the public. So you could talk to her on Twitter.
Oh, that's awesome.
So here's where they're doing reports about the victims and the people that they've been finding dead. And this is the one that Karen, the reporter, is interviewing the guy Eddie, who is supposedly linked to these murders. There she is. Hey, have you guys seen Cujo?
Yes.
Okay.
What are you doing looking at my dog?
Is that your dog's name?
Yeah, that was our old dog's name.
Nice.
So you've seen the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I'm sure you've all seen E.T., right?
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
E.T. the extra testicle? Just kidding.
What was that, Owen?
You don't know the movie E.T.?
Did you hear him?
Yes. Right, try saying that around any kid and they're going to be like, what? It's like the Wizard of Oz. It's a rite of passage for kids.
What's the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, right?
Ha ha, gorilla.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like your son's about ready to have an aneurysm, gorilla.
Hey, you see why Drew wants to smack me half the time? Oh, which reminds me, I gotta make the thumbnail for next Sunday.
So the reporter Karen is there inside. Basically, it's a X-rated bookstore, and they have her wired up with a mic so that she could try to get an interview with this killer Eddie, because Eddie specifically asked for her. So that's why she figures this is going to be great for her career. But unfortunately, the deeper she gets into this bookstore, the signal from her mic starts dropping. And by the way, there's 2 police officers that we see here. And I'm sorry for pointing out cameos, but the one driving the car, right now he's in the background. He's blurry, but we should get a close-up. But this is the famous, he's red hair, and his name is Kevin Tobey. He played in The Thing from Another World, among many other classic sci-fi movies from the 50s and 60s. There he is. That's the famous Kenneth Tobey, if any of you guys have seen The Thing from Another World. Which
Nope,
eventually
only
be
seen
Only, yeah, the thing was the remake of the thing from another world.
That thing from another world. Yeah, for sure.
So what the basically is the cops are keeping an eye out for her, but they're not exactly where she went. They're not sure where she went. They were listening in on her. Like I said, she's bugged, and they were listening in on the mic, but the signal's been dropping in and out. So that's what they're saying. She's wearing some kind of purple lavender outfit. We ought to spot her pretty easy. Yeah, I've seen her on the news. And this guy was a real announcer. When you hear his voice, a lot of you, I know the younger people may not recognize the voice, but he did a lot of work for network television back in the day. We don't have audio.
Well, he sounded like it. Like he sounded like a legitimate read. It was pretty neat. So that does explain a lot.
Yeah, that's how he sounds so authentic because he was an actual announcer. I just don't remember. It's been so many years. I don't remember what network. It may have been CBS. I just can't remember because it was so long ago. So he's in the bathroom and he's rehearsing, and then we have. Remember, this is the reporter's husband. He comes in and he starts watching his hands. He's very nervous because he knows that his wife has that mic on and she's doing that undercover job downtown. That's why he's there at the station because he's watching what's going on. And here we have behind the scenes inside the editing. And by the way, I've got experience at a television station. When I was 15, our local PBS station was looking for volunteers to operate the camera. And I'd always wanted to do that. So I volunteered and they selected me. So I was operating the camera, and then I eventually made my way into the editing room, and I was a stage director, and I did it for a couple of years. It was really fun. So I kind of
awesome.
know. Yeah, it was for a kid. It was a blast. That's originally why I wanted to get into radio and television broadcasting when I went in the Air Force. But beware, you guys, if you enroll in the military, unless they give you an actual guaranteed job in writing, they're going to screw you over and give you something you don't want. A lot of us found out the hard way. So here she is. She was supposed to receive this. This is her. She's supposed to stop at this phone booth and receive instructions. And so the reporter's here, and hopefully the cops are supposed to spot her at this point so they can follow her where she goes from here. And there's a man out there. You can see his back waiting to use the phone. That's what she says. She's very. Oh, by the way, according to her interview on the DVD, she was actually very nervous and extremely scared and paranoid when she filmed this because it was filmed in the bad side of town. So when you watch it, it actually does help because you can tell she's honestly shaking. Here's talking on the microphone to the people inside the control room at the station. So you got quite a brave young lady there, Mr. White. So they're talking to her husband. They're introducing each other. And she's asking, how's it going? That's her friend. She's another reporter, and she's asking, how's it going? And he says, I've not got a clean word from Karen in the last 15 minutes because unfortunately they're losing the signal.
They claim it's due to all the neon. It's weird. I don't know if that's actually a thing or not.
Well, I don't know about neon, but I know fluorescent lights tend to interfere. So it may be possible. I wish I had Bert of Prey here. He's electrical engineer. He probably knows all that. And this is where she's talking to Eddie on the phone, and he's supposed to tell her where to go next. And that's why she says, come on, Eddie, I know it's you. And he's asking, are you alone? She says, yeah, I'm alone. And here he is talking to her. Of course, very creepy. That's why this is my personal Robert Picardo role. Everything else, in my opinion, pales in comparison. And here's where he says they've lost her. They totally lost the signal from the microphone. And I remember now she still thinks they can hear everything. Okay, Eddie, I'll be there in just a little while, she says. And she said she felt nervous because the guy was waiting outside the phone booth. And the guy comes and enters the phone booth, and we have the great Roger Corman, everybody. So this is one of the fantastic cameos in here. Yeah, that's Roger Corman. And bless him, he's still alive. He's in his 90s, but he's still alive. And by the way, he also produced, I'm sure you guys remember Death Race 2000, among many other movies. So you told me you'd never be out of contact with her. So here's where the husband's upset because they lost signal with her. And the guy's trying to comfort him, saying they have people in the area, the cops are watching. But he says, in the area, what does that mean? And he says, they will find her. Here she is wandering around, and she goes into a X-rated bookstore. And it was an actual bookstore. Like I said, it really helps her performance in this. He's frustrated because he can't get a signal. And she was told to go to one of the back booths, and that's where Eddie would be waiting for her. And notice the smiley face on the glass. That'll be a reoccurring image, not only in this movie, but other Joe Dante movies in the future. It even pops up in Gremlins. So she goes into a booth, the door closes, and then from behind her, a hand reaches up and puts a coin inside the machine. And the movie starts. I'm going to have to skip through a lot of this because unfortunately there's nudity. She's in a porno theater after all. I mean, it's just a topless woman, but still I'm not allowed to show it on YouTube. So I'll do my best to skip through it. So she's watching this porno movie while this Eddie guy is standing right behind her. And this is them in the newsroom fidgeting and complaining because they can't get a signal. And of course, the husband is very upset. And in the meantime, we have the psychologist being interviewed about this book that he's trying to push. And that's the program manager who actually runs the studio. And there's the cheap movie she's watching. And here's where Eddie approaches her from behind. And he says, I like you, Karen, but you're different. And he says he watches her on TV. Okay, we didn't get any nudity there. Okay. And of course, she's at this point very frightened, and he's behind her, and he's sounding very creepy.
Yeah. Oh, I was muted. We got quite a few chats here.
Go ahead, Gorilla. Thank you.
All right, Phantom Boomer says, damn it, Jim. Then Lemon Pie says, howdy, Jim. Lemon Pie says, hi, mad scientist. Jim says, hail, Lemon Pie. Jim put a link in for a new prop there.
Oh, very cool. Thank you, Jim.
And Phantom Boomer says, wow, whirly birds on TV. Then Ken Toby was an airplane.
Yes, he was. Thank you. Yes.
Another link for a new prop. And Jim says, hail, Phantom Boomer.
Yes, definitely check out that channel. And he does some fantastic work. So what happens is Eddie's talking to her from behind, and he's telling her how much he loves her and watches her on TV and all the usual creepy stuff. But as he's talking to her, his voice starts deepening and changing. And then that's where it says evil voice. And he says, turn around now, Karen.
Right, because he's transforming, unbeknownst to her.
Right, she doesn't know what's going on, but he is transforming. But when she turns around, the light from the projector is straight in her eyes. So she's having trouble seeing exactly what's going on. All she can see is an outline. It's enough to frighten her. We're speechless, pretty much. She doesn't scream. She's speechless. And then at that point, the cops come in looking for her. And the guy that's running the store said, yeah, there's a broad that came in here. She's watching movies. And there's Eddie. We get a glimpse of him. And that's the point where she screams. And she yells, please. The cops run in and begin firing. And that's her. And you can see
they
blood
didn't
running.
hit her. Jeez.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And you can see there's blood running down the screen. And she's crying. And that's when the cop realizes that they put at least a couple bullets in him and he's dead. So he says, put your piece away, put your piece away. By the way, everybody, this is before the days we had tasers. And he says, I know I shouldn't let that broad back here. Blame it on her. Now they finally got a signal from her as she's being escorted from the bookstore. But as you can see, she's in total shock and she's unable to talk. And this is the news reporter telling what's going on. It ended tonight in a bizarre shootout at a Western Avenue adult. No knife, no gun, no nothing, says the officer. The freak was clean. Now what the hell happened back there? The assailant died in an attempted assault. And now they're talking about the news station. A KDHV anchorwoman, Karen White, who had been receiving calls from him in connection with the recent series of brutal murders in the downtown area. And now her husband meets her and says, Karen, it's me. Are you all right? But she's still in shock. And he's trying to calm her down. And they're asking her, what did she see? And she don't remember because basically it was so shocking for her that her memory erased it. So she's trying to tell them, I don't remember, and they're sort of upset because they were hoping to get a good story from her. That's why they said we'll tape something later on. And she's saying, I don't know. Of course, they still keep asking her, and she says, I don't know. Now we cut to their house, and she's asleep, and she's having nightmares. And she wakes up screaming, and her husband tries to comfort her, but at first she fights him off, not realizing who he is. And then he has to remind her that it's Bill, her husband. And she keeps telling him, I turned around, but I didn't see him. She still can't quite remember what happened. I don't think she can grasp it at this point. So here we have it, a rundown, ramshackle little house, as you guys can see here. And we have two reporters from the station that are going and looking for supposedly the location where Eddie lives. And the landlord is telling him it's room number 27 down the hall. You did say that the kid hated washing dishes. Okay, so they're talking about Eddie. And this is where they enter Eddie's room. And you can see this type of decorations he has. And the
It's
stench.
funny, you see that picture there, right? And you don't realize who it is until later on. I don't even know if anyone would clue in, but we'll meet that character that he has drawn later on
Yes,
in the movie.
right. We're going to see there's a few. He's an artist. And we're going to see a few drawings that we will actually see the real thing here later on in the movie. I don't know if he's a good artist, but he's some kind of artist.
A better artist than me.
Yeah, me too. Right. And here's where she gets startled
Here's
by a dog
suspicious
through the
dog.
window. But you know what? This is a jump scare, but it's a good one and it's an earned one. It's not a cheap one in like movies these days. So they shoo the dog away and they start going through his things. And that's one of his drawings of Karen, the reporter. So they do realize how his obsession with her. And he says, even said, not bad, the kid had talent. He could have designed the Marquis de Sade coloring book, she says. I think we better call the cops, she says. But of course, they want to search the room first. And here's where she finds another drawing. And here they are in the psychologist's office. Now, remember, this is the psychologist in the beginning who was doing the interview on TV about his book. And he said, sort of person, they're controlled by the right hemisphere of the brain, dominates the non-rational, the artistic, the creative impulses. Basically, it's a lot of psychological mumbo-jumbo. It's not unusual for a killer to draw as well as that, he says. So he's trying to get like a idea of the killer. Trying to push Fred for a half-hour special called The Mind of Eddie Quiet. Although we're focusing really on the beast in all of this. So, of course, they're trying to find a way of profiting off this and exploiting the story. And now we have Karen and Bill in bed. But she's still not quite back to herself, I guess you could say. That's why she's telling him she'll be all right.
Yeah, she's still traumatized.
Still traumatized, still having nightmares. So here we are back to the television station, and they get ready to go on the air. Standby, cameras 1 and 2, opening scene ready to push on in. So here's where they expect her to get on camera and tell them what happened. This is the next day after all that incident the night before. And that's where they say diving in head first. That's what the old man says. They're referring to the guy on the right, Kevin McCarthy, the program manager. Here's our girl. Of course, he's pushing her on. And over to the right, I don't know why they have a card catalog like you would find in the library in the old days. So I'm not sure that fit to a television station, but it will. Now where the program manager basically says, you know, everybody's going to be watching you. This is the biggest point of your career. Everybody wants to see the lady who fought Eddie the Mangler. And the friend says she seems shaky, and then the program manager says, "Oh, look, she looks fine to me." Of course, all he cares about is getting those ratings. And the commercial's ending. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's called an SEG, a special effects generator, as they wipe from the commercial to the camera. And they do the introduction for the news. It's the 5 o'clock edition of the Channel 6 Update News.
Hey, welcome, Captain Finity.
Hey,
Hey,
Captain
Cap,
Finity,
how you
so
doing,
good to
bud?
see you. Yeah, Captain, I know horror movies aren't your bag, but I do appreciate you coming and saying hello.
Yeah, and this was back when
Yeah,
everybody
appreciate it.
trusted the news, and you only had like what? There was only like one news reporter, wasn't there?
Well, they had a few reporters, but the news wasn't 3 hours long. It'd be on for like a half hour, and then it would be on again at 11 at night. And we definitely did not have our 24-hour CNNs and Fox News and all that garbage. So when they told the news, it was just the news, and then they were done with it. And they never back then had reporters interviewing reporters. That's another thing I hate about modern day news. It's just it'd be a whole room of 6 reporters all interviewing each other. It's disgusting. So here she's getting ready to go live to tell about her story from the night before.
Oops.
And the reporter is finishing up the story about a train derailment just before she goes on. Now here's Karen White. And she clears her throat. Good evening. And the camera zooms in. And then she freezes. And then there's lights.
Be careful of this scene coming up here, Pop.
And
Why
she
is that?
freezes up. Basically, she's speechless. And she freezes. And when that happens, the program manager says, "Get her out of there, get her out of there." And then they switch to something else on the camera. Because they don't want her to go crazy, basically live on television.
Exactly. Like she's looking at the camera, and it's like it zooms out, and it triggers a memory of what was going on, and she like blanks out. And then there's something on the lens that we can't. Well, there's boobs on the lens that we can't show. So,
I didn't catch that.
Another reason to watch the movie.
I'm gonna need
Shame on you, Gorilla.
on that. I didn't catch it.
Would you watch a Disney Plus version or what? Sorry.
I've been responding to a message at the time.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a long scene. It showed a picture of the girl from the porn movie on the lens.
Right. Yeah, it was like
a
superimposed image over the lens because she was having flashbacks from the night before. So now they're talking about a fire.
Up right quick here. So.
Yes. So now they're talking about a fire, and they start talking about something else. And now her friend comes in and asks her if she's okay, and her friend takes her off camera. I'm sorry, it's just in my head. She's very apologetic, and they're telling you it's all right. You need more time. And of course, that's when the editorial comes on with the program manager. There's been a lot of talk in the past month about our cultural violence. Of course, he gets on there. And then he says, "Oh, who knows? Maybe she's pregnant." So he's making excuses for her the way she's acting. And now he's talking racist. Get in touch with that Fujiyama or Fujimoto or whatever the hell her name is, and get her ready for the 11 o'clock report. So now he knows that Karen's not going to be ready for the 11 o'clock report because you're not ready for the 6 o'clock news. And of course, talking about himself on TV. Now there is a pro. And we cut back to the psychologist's office. And he's talking to her. And she's still reliving that night, trying to explain to him what's going on. And it's over, but just like everybody else, she says she doesn't remember. She just said, "There's this blood on me, and I can't imagine whom it might have come from." And he said, "You can't remember anything that happened inside the booth?" "No, not really. Just weird little pieces in my dreams." Well, I'm going to recommend that you go up to the computer too. So it's a private area that I don't know if he owns or he's just I think it's kind of like a vacation property. And he says it's up north. He says that's right. Now I only recommend it to very special patients. ones who I think will benefit from its environment. So he's telling her it'd be a good place for her to go and rest, get away from it all. Here we are then driving up the Pacific Coast Highway. It'll enable you to, and you get a voiceover, it'll enable you to try and get back to what you really are. And she asks what goes on up there. And he says, well, seminars, there's groups, therapies, it's very low key. It could be a good place to try and tackle this amnesia thing. So there's her and Bill driving up there. And of course she says, I don't know if I want to remember. And he says the doc will tell her when she remembers it won't scare her anymore, but she's not so sure about that. I think she'd rather forget it probably. And he mentions about the people, the colony thing. I hope they're not too weird. And we open up with the great John Carradine, who that man lived for so many years, and he's the father of David Carradine from Kung Fu, among a few other Keith Carradine, and I think he had 3 or 4 sons that went into acting. But David Carradine would seem to be the most popular, which we watched him star in Death Race 2000. So here they are at a barbecue, and they're meeting all the people who live in the colony. And the guy's saying he owns a couple of health clubs. And so they're introducing each other. So there's this guy here who's cooking this big slab of meat, and this is his wife.
Yeah, so basically we had a vegan, and the going guy doesn't know what hardware was.
Right, I guess he's kind of like a geek. And unfortunately, his wife here says you're our second favorite reporter. So that's kind of a little faux pas.
Hey, at least she's honest.
Yes, at least she's honest. And here's, like I said, everybody's introducing each other. And here's where he says, oh, thanks, I've seen you on television. If those don't mind, I think I'm going to borrow Karen, she says, and give her a rundown on the colony. Don't leave out the juicy stuff, he says. Of course, he's joking. And then the two girls go off to talk. And when they do, they offer him barbecue. And unfortunately, we get, I don't know, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but we get folk music. And we get the old man.
Nothing wrong with good old folk music.
Right, good old folk music. And it's fitting. So we get the old man who seems to be talking to himself, very bitter. He says, can't go on like this. And Peter Scott, hell of a note.
And here we get the hottest woman in the film.
Tell me, don't you think she's beautiful? What do you think?
Oh, dude, like, hell yeah.
I know, right? Yes, I remember I was 17 when I saw this movie. I was like, oh my goodness. So this is where
when I saw this movie, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Right. Chats here.
Go ahead, Gorilla. Thank you.
Boomer says Cap, and Cap says I'm organizing my Call of Cthulhu TTRPG books, so horror is perfect. And he says Boomer,
cool.
And Pulp Cthulhu is gaining favor, by the way, Nemesis. Exciting stuff, Cap. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. Okay, so here we have Bill is grabbing something to eat, and she's basically, as you can see, she's talking to him, and he's saying he's looking for his wife. And she says, why? And she says, has some of this. And he says, what is it? And she says, it's good. I'm Bill. And she says, I know. And we're going to find out more about her. And he says, when he says, I'm looking for my wife, she says, why? And that's why he kind of considers it like an awkward moment, and he leaves and says, excuse me. Like I said, I can't play everything because we have to skip so many seconds on the frame. And we have a strange, goofy-looking guy, which I guess is like the village idiot shucking oysters. By the way, no offense to any village idiots out there. Nothing personal to anybody. Now you can see what I brought you up here. You won't be cold. So here's the doctor's here, and he's talking to Karen and her newfound friend. Kind of showing them around. You missed the television, and are you kidding? I don't have to pin my hair up, she says. And unfortunately, this weird-looking guy is staring at the reporter very creepily, I'd have to imagine. And now here we have an introduction with the Marcia, the woman who was talking to Bill a few minutes ago, and she's got a copy of the doctor's book, and she does not like it. And he says, "Hello, Marcia, how are you?" She says, "Take this book back. I don't want my brother reading it." I think he said he'd like to, said the doctor. "Well, you've done enough damage already," she says. Her brother is the weird guy wearing the fur that I told you looks like kind of like the village idiot. That's her brother. And they said, "Well, isn't she kind of something like high strung or something wrong with her?" And he said, "No, no, no. We could all learn a great deal from Martha. She's a very elemental person. There's a long way to go." And back to some
Yeah,
folk music.
the doctor's wife called her a whore. Or no, sorry, she said she's a nymphomaniac. And she was
Yes,
like,
that's
no,
what he
no,
said.
no.
That's the words all of us guys want to hear, right?
Well, of course.
Just kidding. No offense to any of those nymphomaniacs out there. And I remember there was an episode. I know this is off topic. I'll make it fast. There was an episode of Cheers where Sam was a nymphomaniac, and he went to a meeting of nymphomaniacs because that was a great hookup site or a good place. I was like, yeah, that does kind of make sense. Here we have the old man walking through the crowd, watching people, observing, and he stops. He looks at the shadow. And then suddenly he freaks out and he starts yelling, "Let me go, let me go. I want to end it." He's trying to jump into the fire. And they're trying to hold him back.
Jump in the fire.
And he says, "You got to let me do it, Doc. You got to." Now, right now, we don't know why, but we will figure out later what's going on. And Karen says, "Jesus." And they're saying, "Don't worry. That's one of Earl's favorite tricks. He's just trying to get attention." And the old man says, "I want to end it." It just goes on and on. The doctor says, "Earl, you know better than that." And here they are trying to calm Bill down. "Now, believe me, come tomorrow. You will be so pleased to see that you're safe and sound. We won't think anything more of it." And he tells the old man, "Get a good night's sleep. Everything will seem better in the light of day." And we cut to later on at Bill and Karen's cabin where they're asleep. And of course, she's having her nightmares again. And she wakes up. And she hears noises outside. Yes.
You said that the Howling and American Werewolf in London were produced at the same time. Now, are these because in the dreams in American Werewolf in London, they're very similar? Like, are they connected in that way?
No, the movies themselves are not connected.
Okay.
But what happened was it was like this one started, and then halfway through they started pulling the makeup guys to go to American Werewolf in London. So they weren't shot simultaneously, but they were kind of like overlapping.
Okay.
And she hears a howling out in the woods, strangely enough. And she goes to wake up her husband. "Bill, wake up. There's something out there outside. Something was howling," she said. And of course, he doesn't think anything of it. He says, "Just the wind." She said, "No, there was something howling before." He says, "Okay, sure, somebody's dog." And she says, "Not like any dog I ever heard." And he said, "The wildest thing you ever heard was Wolfman Jack. This is the country." Because he told her because she's from Los Angeles. So any of the old people might remember Wolfman Jack. He was a radio announcer and DJ. And Bill groans and goes back to sleep, and she lays there and listens. And I guess she's having trouble sleeping, so she decides to build a fire. And as that happens, we have something approaching her door. And she hears the noise and has the flashlight and goes out there. It's a horror movie, so if you hear noises, you got to go outside.
Oh yeah, that's a trope. They always make the dumbest decisions in horror movies.
Now she finds a piece of what looks like material or lace hanging from one of the branches. She doesn't see anything, so she goes back inside, and then we get this. So this is the creepy brother watching her. Now we have the next day. "Donna, and this is her friend saying, you heard something outside. Why should you call the police?" So them two are playing tennis. And she says, "I wish we hadn't called them. Look at this." And they're just talking about the balls. And now that's the great Slim Pickens that I was mentioning earlier. He always played like a cowboy, but he was actually from Hanford, California. But he was great. So many movies, so many legendary movies. Hey, Doc said on the phone that you folks had a coyote problem out here. He pronounces them coyote, by the way, not coyote. And he sees her. He doesn't quite recognize her. Hey, you're famous, ain't you? And she says, sort of. That's one person I always wish I would have met because he seemed like such a nice, friendly guy. Sam, this is Karen White. So they introduce each other. And he says, sure, I used to watch you all the time. You're a lot prettier than Walter Cronkite. And he said, will you mind the coyotes? And he tells them, mind them. And the lady says, no, she sleeps like the dead. Did you hear anything to me? No, I sleep like the dead. Now we have the morgue. So we have these two reporters. They want to go in there and take a look at Eddie's body, the guy from the porno booth. So they're asking him, does he have a tattoo? He says, oh, yeah, I remember one on him when he came in. But yeah, well, the coroner said he had one on his shoulder. And the guy's indicating on his shoulder some kind of animal head right there. And he says, no. I don't get many of you TV people in here. Most of your newspaper guys like to come in and look at the meat. And that's when she notices that he's having lunch. So he's got brains right there next to his burger.
Awesome. That's something Hannibal would eat.
Well, it makes, somebody that works in the morgue, they're going to be used to it. So they're going to, I don't know if they would literally eat right next to having brains like that. But I mean, that takes really getting used to your job, I guess.
I've seen some pretty, I've seen sanitation workers like just straight up pull out a sandwich after working and just like eat it. Like, no hand washing, no nothing. You're just like, oh my God. So,
right.
I mean, yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah, and they still smell like their job and everything, right?
Oh, their hands were filthy from their job and they still eat their food. Anyways, moving on.
Oh, yes. So here they're going to go take a look at Eddie, and the guy opens the door, and we get the music, dun, dun, dun. And apparently it's empty. So he was here this morning, says the coroner. And she says, God, look at that door. As you guys can see, the door was apparently destroyed and torn up from the inside.
Yeah.
And she said, you don't suppose somebody could have stolen him, do you? And he says, well, he didn't get up and walk out on his own.
Yeah. How much did bodies go for back in 1981?
Well, I guess it depends. You'd have to find the people that are harvesting body parts, I imagine. But remember, that's what it's. But you saw the door was torn up from the inside, so chances are it wasn't a body when it left. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that kind of reminded me of a meme there that I seen that it said if you ever feel worthless, here's how much you're worth on the black market. It showed the price of all your different body parts.
Nice. Oh, Captain Infinity says she is one hot-looking witch, and yes, Cap, yes, she is one hot-looking witch.
Did you miss?
Oh, yes.
Did you accidentally put a W instead of a B?
No. We're talking about the sexy Martha, or no? What? Marsha.
Yeah, the lady.
Marsha.
Marsha with the dark hair and the bones hanging around her neck.
Oh, you come on, Gorilla. The one good scene where they're like, well,
The one I wandered into your stream that we were at the exact same part.
hell yeah, buddy, that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy,
So here's where they have the ladies are listening and they can hear mooing, cows mooing. And she said, you have cows around here? And she says, well, the brunette says Charlie Barton's got a couple of acres of pasture just down the hill. And Karen notices that the cows sound kind of strange. She says, that don't sound right. I'm not really sure how cows are supposed to sound, says the lady. And she said, well, not like that. And then we also get more howling. Of course, they're hanging out in the woods in the dark at night. Jerry's got a rifle, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So now we cut back. Go ahead.
I was just saying, welcome to Hungry. He says it's a great
Hey,
film.
Hungry.
Hey, Hungry Boy, good to see you. Glad you could join us. Yeah, I love the howling. I hope you, if you just got here, I had some trivia sort of toward the beginning, but I don't think I can tell Hungry Boy anything he doesn't know. He knows everything. And in many cases, more than I do.
Oh, we don't need to tell Hungry anything. Yeah, no, he is very knowledgeable when it comes to movies and all things required. So good to see you, Hungry. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Here we have the two ladies venturing out into the night with a gun and a flashlight. So they're following the noises, and then they find a beheaded animal here, a cow. And that startles them. And just as that happens, of course, the flashlight goes dead. And she hands it to her friend, who says, "Let me see here." And all they do is bang on the flashlight, and of course, it doesn't do any good. And she's now we're stuck out here in the middle of Timbuktu someplace. And they scream because they're startled by the sheriff and the other guy from the colony. "Sorry to scare you, ma'am. I thought you was a cowjacker." There's another one back up yonder towards the same way.
Oh, so because she's a woman, she can't steal a cow, huh?
Well, I'm just more
Well, he didn't know
impressed
who
about the fact that those dudes just snuck up on them with like no sound.
You can walk pretty quietly in those pastures.
And he
Yeah,
says,
but
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, but like they're wearing all kinds of gear. There should be jangling. Like these guys have like a rolling high on their stealth rolls. Is all I'm saying.
Especially the cop, you figure he's got the keys and the handcuffs and all that stuff.
No,
Yeah, 100%.
Well, the handcuffs, they won't make any noise because they got them in a special pouch on the back of their belts there. Keys are probably in the vehicle.
They didn't always have pouches. There was a point where they had them
80s.
just dangling on the back of their belts. Yeah. You know what did it? It ate a coyote. You guys are all right. Yeah. So it's like they're out there investigating as well. Nothing like a quiet a week in the country, she says. Now we cut back to Bill with the guy from the barbecue who's showing him how to shoot a gun. He says, "Oh, you have potential, Bill." Now they are on a hunting party out trying to figure. Yes.
You said that dude for the doctor from Voyager was in this movie. Have we seen him yet?
Yes.
Robert Picardo?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's Eddie, the guy in the porno booth.
Beginning?
He's Eddie, the guy in the porno booth. All we've seen is a close up of his mouth so far and his eyes.
Oh my god, dude! I just you've said that a bunch of times and it just clued in. That's amazing, awesome,
yeah.
Cool.
He's the one in the porno booth. He put his hands on her shoulders and said, "Turn around now, Karen."
Awesome, sweet.
So,
okay, cool.
So what they're doing is they're out. It's a posse basically trying to figure out who's been slaughtering the cows. And they're talking about the guy with the wearing the animal skin, saying he's part bloodhound. And the old man says, "I still think it was UFOs." Good Earl, good. You watch the skies for us now. That'll do your job. So there's humor in him. And I need to talk to you. I thought you had a session. "I do, but I don't want you to go to do this. Not just for my sake," she says. Of course, she's worried about him. But they've never been on a wolf hunt before. So he's saying that he doesn't want to look like basically a coward in front of the other guys. So he wants to be on the hunt with the other ones. Now we have the weird guy that wears the fur. And we cut to the cabin with Karen, the therapy group. And once again, she's trying to relive the night from the porno booth. And she says, "Somebody else is breathing. He's in there with me. It's Eddie," and he closes the door. He puts a quarter into the slot, and the movie starts. Then he whispers something to me. And then he tells me I can finally turn around and look at him. Of course, everybody's like, What? What did you see? What did you see?" And she starts to panic. Of course, she's still in shock. And they're asking, "What's there, Karen? Karen, what do you see?" And of course, as you can see, her mind's in a jumble. "Just try. He's right there. What do you see?" They're asking.
She wants to see the manager.
Right. "What's there, Karen? And what do you see?" And of course, at this point, her mind's shutting down. She remembers the glass shattering from when they shot him. And she says, I can't see him. And she's almost in tears. And the doctor says, okay, that's fair enough for now. Far enough for now. That's far enough. And she's apologizing again, of course. "I'm sorry." See, like I said, it was so traumatic, her brain has basically turned it off and she's forgotten. Plus, all she saw was glimpses with the projector light shining in her face. So back to the posse. And it looks like Bill, who just learned how to shoot a gun, shot a rabbit. And he said he was no hunter. So now we cut to the local bookstore with two nuns, of course, looking at each other doubtfully, but then they go in anyway. I thought this was kind of funny. And the wonderful, great Dick Miller, everybody. A big staple from the old Roger Corman movies. By the way, he starred in the original Little Shop of Horrors, among many other movies. He was in the Gremlins and everything else Joe Dante made. He worked with Joe Dante in everything up until his death. And over to the right there, you see what looks like a dead zombie mother sitting in a chair. That's an actual prop from an old movie called I Dismember Mama.
Nice.
So we have the nuns walking through the store, and we have the two reporters in there once again, the man and the woman, and they're looking up books on werewolves and spirits and demons and things like that. They're trying to figure out what's going on with Eddie. So he's pointing out the different books that he has in the store. And he said the Manson people used to hang around here and shoplift. And now they're asking him, do you know any group that's into body snatching? So they're still talking about Eddie's body missing from the morgue. And he said, if you want to read about it, I got a book for you. Slide me down. So they slide him down his ladder, and he grabs a book. And he hands it to him, and then he grabs a stuffed armadillo and walks off camera. A number of young women were killed in the next month. Their bodies exhibiting signs of animal attack, she reads. And he asks her, what's that? Let's see if we can get it in the slide. Well, we didn't get exactly in the still, but it's something like werewolves, demons, and ghosts or something like that. I can't get the title without showing. There it is. Warlocks, Werewolves, and Demons is the name of the book she's reading. And I have to point this out as well. We have a close-up here of somebody thumbing through some cards, tarot cards to be precise. The camera pulls out, and the guy to the right who has the cards in his hand is the wonderful, absolutely beautiful, hilarious Forrest J. Ackerman. He was a publisher and star of a magazine called Famous Monsters of Filmland. I used to read it when I was a kid. It's the magazine that introduced me to monster making, makeup, and all that. He used to be friends with Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff and all that. He went way back, and he knew everybody in Hollywood. And there's some of the books inside of his hand as he turns around. As you can see, he's even plugging some of the Famous Monsters of Filmland comic books in his hand, which I love this cameo. We'll find and if any of you guys have seen the Peter Jackson movie Dead Alive, he's also in that, doing almost the same cameo. So we'll find out if any of Eddie's killings is Dead Alive.
Really?
I think, yeah, Dead Alive.
Yeah, I've seen Dead Alive. It's amazing.
That's
It's
the one where the
weird,
crazy rat in the zoo bites people, right?
Yeah, dude, and then like a bunch of weird shit, and it holds the record for the most fake blood ever used in a movie scene at the very end.
Yes, exactly. Right. Well, in the zoo scene, remember when that crazy rat attacked the old lady and bit her hand? You remember that?
Yes, where it's all claymation and whatnot, or stop motion, I should say.
Right. But that very scene that I'm talking about is where Forrest J. Ackerman, the guy with this magazine here, was in. He was in that very scene. He was one of the bystanders, and he watched the old lady get attacked. And he was reading one of these magazines.
Awesome.
So here we have Dick Miller, the bookstore owner, telling the reporter, we'll find out if Eddie's killings were on a full moon. So they're still talking about Eddie. And he's showing them different things. Fear not, whatever it takes, a notion to it. He said, that's why they call them shapeshifters. I got a dozen books on it. What about killing it with silver bullets, she asked. He said, silver bullets or fire, it's the only way you get rid of the damn things. They come back from the dead if you don't kill them right. Plus, they regenerate.
The silver bullets.
Werewolves. That's the only way to kill a werewolf. Is what he's saying is with silver bullets or with fire.
So why does it have to be silver?
Pure.
I'm not sure. I don't know the lore behind why silver specifically, right? Like fire, I can understand. Fire hurts almost anything.
Right, but the reason why, like, for example, a lead bullet won't kill a werewolf, I think it's because it's pure. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
Because I've always heard that it has to be silver. So can I just slingshot some of my silver china over at the werewolf and it'll kill it?
It's going to take a lot of china.
It'll hurt it. Technically, yeah, it should. You could like stab it with a silver spoon, and it'll do damage, and it's not going to be able to regenerate. But I don't know why. Because silver. It's something I'm going to have to look up. but we do have a bunch of chats. This would probably be a good time to look at
Yeah, I
those.
was just gonna say that here.
Thank you, Gorilla.
Yeah, and he says Captain with the hat. There's his lemon, and apparently Jim has a new prop mini tricorder. Then
Yes, a TNG tricorder. Very cool.
yeah, Lemon's waving at Hungry. Jim says hail lemon pie. Apparently Captain Finity left.
Well, have a great night, Captain Infinity. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Jim said that.
Take care, Cap.
Hail Jim. And Hiya Citrus says Hungry. Hooray for Dick Miller says Hungry. Jim, no one is ever really gone. If Star Wars sequels are to be believed anyhow.
Not as long as Disney's around, right?
Oh, that's a whole nother topic about AI use and like bringing back dead people and the ethics and whatnot. We should.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
talk
sad
about
that the
another
actors are signing. It's sad the actors are signing off their images to be a hoard for eternity. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I wanted to answer the question: is silver sulfide is part of silver, and it doesn't hurt any other animals, but in a werewolf, it would lift from the silver and travel through the bloodstream of the animal, blocking off blood vessels and poisoning cells, and that's why it kills a werewolf.
Okay.
No, silver sulfide does, or solid silver does.
It says when they're hit with a silver bullet, the silver sulfide separates from the bullet and travels through their bloodstream.
Oh, fascinating! Because getting into a different werewolf movie in Underworld, you remember how they had the liquid bullets?
I didn't like it
liquid silver
because of the CGI. Yeah, it was like a cartoon. That's the one with Hugh Jackman, right?
No, that's the one with Kate Beckinsale and like mostly leather. You're thinking of Van Helsing. Underworld is the one where it's vampires and werewolves killing each other, like
was it practical effects or was it CGI?
Oh, there was lots of CGI. It's 2000s.
No, that's probably why I didn't see it. No offense.
When
they started doing CGI werewolves, I kind of stopped watching because I never saw them as believable. They don't look. Even Cocaine Bear looked fake as hell. I mean, even today they still don't look good.
This is true. Well,
it's just an opinion. Terrible. You're right. Van Helsing was the one with Hugh Jackman. That was another one that looked like a straight up cartoon.
Looks like Hungry's got a thing coming up here that we'll get to in
Forey. Yes, he's referring to Forrest J. Ackerman, the guy with the famous Monsters of Filmland magazine in his hand.
Apparently,
by the way, it reminds me. I recommend a hilarious movie called Amazon Women on the Moon. It's a very funny movie, and Forey does a good old cameo in that one as well. Okay, so here we have where he's telling.
We got more chats.
Oops, go ahead. Sorry.
Said that apparently it's his hero. Hungry says, in joke, what famous monsters has a werewolf in London on the cover? The first werewolf film made in the USA.
No, it says that famous monster magazine, not what famous monster.
Yeah. And by the way, this film creates is the only time where I say, Marsha, Marsha, Marsha.
Marsha, Marsha, Marsha.
That's right.
I don't know. This Marsha is way harder than the other Marsha.
Well, actually, it's Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. Alrighty. Hungry says silver as an element represents the moon going back to the Middle Ages of alchemy.
Very cool.
Okay. So it's folklore. Alrighty. At Pop Culture Curator says Phantom Boomer. First thing I saw on lookup was confirming the silver purity thing.
Yeah, I think I'd heard that at some point. Thank you, Phantom.
Yeah, Phantom says crap, says that Phantom Boomer.
Crap.
So what do werewolf couples do for their silver anniversary?
Yeah. Howl at the moon?
Here's the link to my channel.
Check out Gorilla's Reddit Thoughts channel, everybody.
Yeah, and Jim says, always read your chat. You're going to need them.
Yes, our intention is to read each and every chat. And as I always remind everybody, if we skip over yours, please yell at us and let us know. Because everybody here deserves time. And that because you guys, in my opinion, your time is very valuable. And the fact that you're spending it here with us means a lot to me, and I respect that. There are certain channels that
100%.
ignore the chat. Yeah, there are channels that ignore the chat, and I just say I don't have much respect for those channels. I'll put it that way. Especially the ones where they don't read it. Yeah, especially the ones where they're not going to read your chat unless it's a super chat and you bribe them. It's like, no. That's everything I'm hardwired against.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so here they are. They're talking to the bookstore owner, and he's telling them that they don't die. He's talking about werewolves. They don't die immediately. Plus, they regenerate. And he says, "Do you know what that is? Cut off an arm, cut off a leg, stick a knife in the heart, nothing. They may look dead, but 3 days later, they're as good as new." He says. And they ask him more questions. And they said, "Do you believe in it?" And he says, "What am I, an idiot making a buck here? You want books? I got books. I got chicken blood. I got dog embryos. I got black cat, a wolf spade." He's listing everything in the store. He says, "Look at this, silver bullets. Some joker ordered them, 30-06. Never picked them up," he says. He said, "Are you going to buy that or what?" Of course, like a bookstore owner. And I said, "Yeah, sure." And they buy the 2 books. And he recommends and said that's a good book. And now we cut back to the colony. And it looks like Bill has his the rabbit that he killed in the hunt. I can't remember the guy who here with the fur, Marsh's brother, but he says hello to him. "You see any werewolves?" He says, "Are wolves?" He says, "No, just a lot of rabbits." And remember, at this point, they don't know about werewolves. They're just asking about wolves. And he says, "Nope, just a lot of rabbits." And this is where Bill says he doesn't really eat much rabbit. And he says, "Well, my sister will cook it up for you."
Well,
And he says, "No,
you can't live on a rabbit diet.
Well, no, you can't because there's not enough fat."
Yeah.
But here's where Sorry, go ahead.
If you really want the nutrients from a rabbit, you gotta cook the bones and everything together with your.
If I remember, I think it's gout. I think is what you get.
You got to make a
eating
stew.
rabbit.
No, it's just it's rabbit starvation is what you get if you eat too much rabbit because there's no nutritional value. Gout is when you eat, like, say, if you live on a diet of like your livers and the
Lamb.
heart.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Gout is from the organs of animals.
Thank you. Now I try to stay away from meat. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it was very famous back in the Middle Ages for like kings and whatnot to have gout because it requires lots of meat in your diet.
Yeah,
well,
very rich diet.
I don't eat much of I eat the organs very little.
Well, you also eat a balanced diet too. You eat other things along with not strictly just that.
Oh, I do.
Well, I'm assuming you do. I mean, I saw your videos. You have like potatoes and noodles and stuff like that, right?
Oh, that was our big old feast we had. For Easter.
Okay, so here's where we have Bill telling the guy with the fur, whatever his name is, I feel bad. Say, I try to stay away from meat, that he's basically a vegetarian. And then the guy says, "Well, you killed something you don't eat, that's a sin." And Bill didn't realize that, so he says, "Well, my sister will be glad to cook it up for you." So he points towards the cabin where him and his sister live. Marcia just loves to cook, he says. "Yeah, I'm sure she does." So he hands the guy his gun and heads up with the rabbit towards Marcia's cabin. And there's Marcia. And she cuts off the foot and tosses it to him. Of course, as anybody knows, they're supposed to be known for good luck. And that's her skinning and preparing the rabbit. And he's asking how long will it take. But she doesn't seem to be in much of a hurry. And of course, she doesn't waste any time at all. And he does try to kiss her first. What's that?
I thought this was incredibly sly of her. Like this This is how he gets turned into a werewolf, right?
Right.
She bites his legs.
She does. She nips him with right on the lip, and that makes him come to his senses, and he pushes her away from him. That's where he wipes his lip. And the door closes and he leaves. I guess he said, "Forget about the rabbit." Now he's heading back to him and Karen's cabin. And we hear strange noises in the woods. And we get somebody watching. And we hear a roar. Here's another scene that's similar from American Werewolf in London, but I don't want to spoil that one. And here's where he's listening and he hears sounds and he's attacked.
So,
happened
who do you
so
think
fast.
this is?
I know who it is, but I
Because
don't
I
want to
don't
give it
think it's
away.
the girl.
Nope, it's not Marsha.
Is it? Oh, it's probably her brother.
I'm guessing it's her brother or it's Eddie. Probably her brother because he was right there outside the cabin.
Yeah, because he's the one who's like, yeah, why don't you go inside? She's real good at cooking. Dun, dun,
Right.
dun, and like hides into the bushes and like transform. Anyways,
Oh, we got 3 chats here. I'm gonna read them real quick.
Thank you, Gorilla.
Lemon Pie says it might be cool to be a lone wolf, except at wolf picnics when you don't have a partner for the wolf potato sack race. Yeah, Phantom Boomer says that would be a bummer of a picnic. And
Yeah,
Hungry
probably
says,
would be.
I saw this film when it came out right after I entered puberty, and Marshall made this film a favorite
Lycanthrope.
lampanthrope. Okay.
Lycanthrope.
That's a word. That's a word for a werewolf. Yeah, it's my
Well,
favorite werewolf movie. There, Hungry Boy. I saw it to walk in, and I really loved it. So I drug some friends to the drive-in. So I saw it at the drive-in the second time. It was funny, and I was so remember the movie so well because I loved it so much. I don't remember what the main feature was, but I remember the drive-in Howling was the second feature.
Oh, dude, like good taste, Hungry. I agree. Like I concur, buddy. Like I wasn't a teenager when I saw her, but like hell yeah.
And here's where Bill makes it back to his and Karen's cabin, and she can hear him groaning at the doorstep. And she lets him in, and we cut to the next day where the doc, or it looks like that night. It's still nighttime. We're at the doctor's office, and he's giving him, which is I'm guessing is a shot for rabies, because it is in the stomach. And he's trying to explain it happened so fast I didn't see what it was. Ooh, those shots have got to be painful. I'm glad I've never had that. And he says, I want to go home. And then, of course, the doctor says, I wouldn't advise traveling right now. A bite like that can be pretty serious. And as he pulls the shot out, Bill exhales deeply. And now we're back to the reporters at their home reading the books. That's the sign of a werewolf. And of
I
course,
really do like the old Germanic drawings like that. The olden style art really speaks to me.
it's great, isn't it? Yeah, that's also what I think helps the Evil Dead too. Is that excellent the art inside the Book of the Dead.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So as she's reading the books on lycanthropy and werewolves, he happens to be watching werewolf stuff on television. And probably an ancient explanation of the dual personality in each of us. And here we have the old Lon Chaney werewolf movie. Even a man who is pure in heart, who says his prayers by night, may become a wolf when the wolf's bane blooms. I think that was Claude Rains. Man standing up, that is. The phone rings, and now he's joking with her, oh, you're reading, I'll get it. And he's just stalling, and finally he starts pushing at her, I'll get it. And she jokes and laughs. She goes to answer the phone, and she says, hello, it's Karen. And of course, Karen is screaming and panicking. She says, no, we're still up. What? And she says, you're kidding me? Karen explains to her that Bill was attacked by a wolf. After she tells him that Bill was attacked by a wolf. And after we get this shot here, the famous shot with Lon Chaney Jr., and the lady says, whoever is bitten by a werewolf and lives. And she says, become a werewolf himself. And so, basically, we get a voiceover. Yes, definitely. So we get a voiceover of the husband reporter telling the wife, come on, Terry, it's only a movie. But he tells her to drive on down, and he'll meet her there the next day, that night. He says, go on ahead. I'll pick you up as soon as I pitch the special to the old man. So what he wants to do is he wants to do a lycanthropy special on werewolves. And when he says he wants to pitch it to the old man, he's talking about the studio manager, Kevin McCarthy. And he's telling her, relax, will you? It was probably just some stray dog. And here's where she gets there, and she says hello to Karen, and they hug and say hello. And now Karen is telling her about how she's suspicious about Marsha. And she calls her Marsha the man-eater. And she lives in this shack with 3 little animals hanging from the rafters. And her friend says, and you think she's trying to make a move on Bill? And she says, I don't know. It's just a feeling. I sound paranoid, don't I? And she says, no, you sound fine. So that's good. She's encouraging her. God, no veggies. I totally forgot. So they just realized that they remembered that Bill is a vegetarian. And then she yells out to Bill about Bill and his dinner, Bill. And she says, well, I'm really sorry. I totally forgot about you not eating meat. And he holds it up and says, no, really, when I get hungry enough, I'll eat anything. And he's just chowing down on that meat. So Bill's not much of a vegetarian anymore. So here we have
Just
that
nice
night.
little hints that he's changing.
Yes. And that night, here he is in bed. And unfortunately, she seems to be in the mood for love. He's not. So she gets upset and she says that my timing is incredible. So she gets frustrated. We're just out of sync, aren't we? We never seem to want the same thing at the same time. And she says, good night, Bill. And we get more howling and noises out in the woods. Multiple voices and her having nightmares again. And when they said multiple voices, it basically is her name. She hears different voices saying, Karen, Karen. And here we get a little bit of a shadow of Robert Picardo again. And she wakes up screaming, and she realizes that Bill is not in bed next to her. Oh, screw you then, she says. And there's Bill walking through the woods. And look, just so happens to be there. There's Marcia right by a campfire.
And now we have the best scene in the movie.
Right, this is one of the one of the best scenes in the movies, but unfortunately, everybody, we're on YouTube, so I'm going to have to just skip right through it. So shame on you for not watching this movie, because this is one of the good reasons.
No, pop, go.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Please forgive me.
Oh, no, just don't acknowledge and move on. It's all good, buddy.
Right. Well, I made the same mistake on Death Race 2000, and I wasn't flagged. So, yeah, as long as we just move on and not talk about it. Just dream about it. Just dream about it.
That's right.
When I grew up, when I was a kid, I had Playboy magazines, and I swear she's got the body. She could have been in one of those Playboy magazines if I didn't know better. I should check on it. Oh, and a word of note, she was upset about that scene because the director told her that the way he was going to film it, she'd be behind the fire, and her nude body would not show up on camera. But then when she saw the final product of the movie, she was very upset. But by then it was too late. So shame on you, Joe Dante. Wink, wink.
Not Dodge. Yeah, terrible. What a shame. So,
I know you bad man. Right.
Pops, what's a Frazette girl or Frazetta girl? There's a couple chats.
Okay. Lemon Pie says, Phantom, you indeed, you see what I'm saying? And Hungry Boy says, Marsha was a Frazetta girl, LOL. And Phantom Boomer says, yes, that's good. Frazetta girl? I'm not sure either. And Phantom Boomer says, boob alert. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Once again, I apologize if there's any kids out in the audience. But hey, you got to grow up sometime.
That's right.
Right.
Who better to grow up on than Marsha?
Right. And what better way to do it? Oops.
Oh, pop. There we go.
There we go. So what she does is he's got a bandage around his arm where he was attacked and bitten. And what she does is she starts licking the wound. And as the two are making love, their teeth start growing here. And this is, as you can see, they're turning into werewolves slowly. And it comes back to the doctor's office, who can hear all this rousing and howling in the woods. And by the way, if you watch the movie, excellent. Remember now, this is before CGI, so it's all practical effects. So you can actually see his fangs growing within his mouth, and that's an excellent effect.
Right? Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Like, we can't show you guys this scene, pretty much, but, like, definitely for the special effects, for the boobs, for the sex, like, seriously, this movie, for, like, this part and, like, the last half hour is definitely, if you're going to watch anything in the movie, watch that scene in the last half hour. Because, like, boom, look at that. Amazing. Look at that. Amazing. Fantastic.
Marsha doesn't look so good anymore, but hey.
He looks a lot worse.
Well, yeah, that's true. And I wouldn't kick her out of bed. So now they're turning, and there he is. She scratches him in the back. And they both growl. And this is an animated sequence. By that point, they're fully werewolves. They had to do animated because at that point, the special effects guys had left the building to work on American Werewolf in London. So in the DVD, he laments that they had to do some of the scenes using stop motion animation.
Oh, okay. Pop, hungry answer what a Frazetta girl was. He says Frazetta was the guy who painted the Conan paperback covers in the 60s and 70s. Lots of hot black-haired
Oh,
women. Okay, gonna
yeah,
have to
there
check it
was
out. Definitely.
full-figured real women. Yes. Phantom Boomer says Presetta and Boris Vallejo knew how to draw ladies. Oh, absolutely. Boris Vallejo was from heavy metal, among many other things.
Nice. Okay, of course.
Okay, so now we have, she's listening to a tape and she can hear the howling. They were recording this from the night before. And now she starts to figure that that area looks familiar. Or we haven't got to that point. Now here's where he comes in the morning and Karen's asleep. And now's where she starts to realize that area looks familiar. So she steps back, turns around and takes a look, and pulls out the drawing from Eddie's apartment. And there's one of the drawings that Eddie made. So she recognizes that this is where Eddie apparently was when he drew that. So Eddie must be familiar with the colony. Hint, hint. Maybe Eddie's there. Remember, he did break his way out of the morgue. And she says, "Oh, Jesus, it's here." And she runs off. And here's where she's running through the woods, and she's going to the doctor's office to alert the doctor. And unfortunately, the sun is setting very quickly. Now, just like Karen was earlier, she's starting to hear voices of somebody calling her name. It's coming from different directions, so it's confusing her. And it's luring her towards that building. And we all recognize Marsh's house. And of course, being a nosy reporter, she's got to find out what's inside. So she starts to look around the different furniture and the decor. I guess you want to call it decor inside the cabin. And now she walks into a bedroom and she starts seeing a bunch of drawings that look similar to the drawings that she saw in Eddie's apartment. And there's a smiley face again. And she starts to hear noises from outside, and something comes through the door. She closes it behind her and runs to the next room. So something is trying to bust into there as she's trying to get out. She jumps out the window, and it kind of goes fast, but she lands, fortunately, on a hatchet with her hands. So she takes the hatchet and pulls it out of the log. And then she climbs under the house. And as she does that, something attacks her from behind. And as this is grabbing her, she's taking the axe or the hatchet, and she's hitting the hand, trying to fight it off. "Oh God, get off me," she says, and she's yelling. But she is struggling with it, and then finally, she chops it and cuts it off. And then when that happens, you hear a big groan and a loud howl. And the hand continues moving and turning. And then it starts twisting and morphing on camera, I have to say. And then she watches as it turns back to a human hand. And that's when she runs out of there and screaming and panting.
Yeah, that was a great practical shot.
Yes. So here's where she runs across the doctor's office. And a word of note that Joe Dante, the director, said that when they filmed the scene, he was completely out of money. So he used his own office as the doctor's office. So here's where she dials the number, and she's trying to call her boyfriend to tell him what's going on. And as that happens, we see somebody pushes play on the recorder. And at the same time, Karen wakes up. And of course, there's Bill. And she's saying, "I had that dream again, except this time I think you were in it," she says. "It's no wonder, honey, you've been asleep all day." And this is where she notices the scratches on his back, that they weren't there. And then he says, "Well, they're probably from when I was attacked." And she says, "No, they weren't there before." Now she's definitely suspicious of him. And of course, he's trying to treat her badly. Don't lay your fantasies out on me. I'm not going to take that anymore. It's all a big conspiracy as far as you're concerned. Where's your backbone? She walks by you like a bitch in heat, and then he slaps her. And then he tries to comfort her, but she says, "Don't touch me." So she gets up and starts getting dressed and says she's going over to the doc's office and she's going to call Chris, the reporter in town who bought the silver bullets. And she says, he'll come back, Terry. He'll come back and pick up Terry and me up, and we can do whatever you want. Or you can do whatever you want. You don't know what it's like. And she says, I don't want to know. And she leaves. But meanwhile, now we're back to the doctor's office, and we have her on the phone. And she says, I saw pictures just like we saw in the room. It's real. And she's trying to explain that that's Terry over the phone. And he says, where are you, at the docks? And she says, yeah. So he tells her to go to the filing cabinet and pull out the file for Eddie Quist. And Eddie was a guy in the porno booth. And here we have, he's still at home watching werewolf stuff on TV. So we get an old werewolf cartoon. He says, look, is there some kind of filing cabinet? She says, yeah. He says, are you sure you're all right? And she said, yeah, I'm okay. Sorry to hop through this so quick, you guys. And she says, okay, you're not going to hang up, are you? He says, no. He said, no, I'll get the police there as soon as I can. So he's going to call the police also. Notice all these references to Howl. And she's looking through the filing cabinet looking for Eddie's file. And she says, oh, Christopher, it's Eddie's fists. And, excuse me. Yes, Gorilla.
Oh, nothing. I was waiting for you to stop, though, but welcome, Scogli. He apparently just had a great
Hail,
show
Scogli.
over on the Writers Brothers. And
Hail, Scogli.
And while we're at it, Hungry says the SFX were amazing for the time. No better werewolf transformations. Lots of air bladder work.
Yes.
And here is Nemesis Gaming Channel.
Yeah, check out Nemesis of Eden's Gaming Channel. Fantastic, everybody.
Oh,
thank you, Gorilla. Are we caught up?
Yeah, we're caught up.
Okay, so she pulls out the file and she says it's Eddie Quist. But as she does that, look who seems to pop up. So we get a growl and the phone falls to the floor. And look what we have up on top of the filing cabinet. And he slaps the file out of her hands. She falls to the floor. And here's we get our first good look at a werewolf in this movie. Basically, he's playing with, and what I like is the werewolf walks on its hind legs. That's one thing I prefer over American Werewolf in London. In American Werewolf in London, it walks on all fours. I don't want to spoil the movies too much, but in here they walk on their hind legs, which I really like. So she goes and hides behind that curtain, and the werewolf just grabs it and throws it out of the way. And she's screaming, and she turns the light on, trying to scare him, but she moves out of the way, and it grabs her. Unfortunately, it's very strong. And here we have the sheriff. No, just don't bother. So we have Terry, her husband, calling the sheriff. Of course, the sheriff doesn't quite understand what's completely going on. He says, look, I'll get a hold of the state boys, and we'll meet you over there at the center. I wouldn't worry, Mr. Howard. See the chili that he's eating? Wolf chili, of course. And that is a real brand. I've eaten it before. So now we have a growl, and he picks her up by her throat.
Oh, no, the cop knew exactly what was going on.
I know. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it yet. But the sheriff is kind of putting on an act, and that's why he's kind of moving a little slower than he should be. So what happens is the werewolf picks her up by the neck, and I don't want to spoil this too much. But
kill in the movie.
well, what's happening is he's actually slowly crushing her neck, and you can hear the bones slowly snapping. So he's enjoying the kill because he could kill her really fast, but he's enjoying doing it slow and making her suffer.
That's fair. Okay, that brings it up a little bit.
And she's sobbing. Yeah, he's enjoying it. You could tell. And now he just munches on her neck slowly and just chews on her slowly. And then her legs fall limp. And we get a few drops of blood. And that's Eddie's file, by the way, on the ground. With the doctor's notes. And you'll see where the doctor had actually noted a transformation where the skull had changed. And we cut back to the bookstore where he's back and he grabs a box of bullets and he starts running out the door. And the salesman says, "Those are real silver. I got to check with the jeweler to find out what to charge." And the guy says, "Bill me." And he says, "Crazy fuck." So he left his credit card there and just said, "Bill me." Now he gets off and he's head up towards the colony. Now we have Karen comes to the same doctor's office and she looks through the window and she says she thinks there's somebody there and she realizes there isn't. She says, "I got to use your phone." So she sees the curtain. She moves it aside and sees that it's her best friend dead. And she sobs and covers her with the curtain or with the blanket or the sheet. And now she realizes she needs to get on the phone and call for help. So she grabs the receiver and starts dialing. And then you hear heavy breathing. And it's coming from behind her. And you hear evil laughter. And of course, she walks backwards. And now we have the bed. And we get the reveal. And now is where you guys will get a good look at Robert Picardo. And now she sees that her friend's body is on the floor, so he's playing with her. Because remember now, the friend's body was on the gurney. So he threw the body on the floor and then laid down the gurney and covered it up. And there he is, moving the gurney out of the way as she's trying to struggle. And there he is. Hello, Karen.
Well, he was hiding under the gurney, right? Like he
Yes.
used it as a jump scare for her.
God,
Right,
I didn't recognize him with the hair.
Yeah, and at this point, he's transformed back into a man. So he says, "Hello, Karen." And she says, "Eddie." And he says, "I'm glad you came. I wanted to see you again." Of course, she's frightened. And he's laughing. And you can see the bullet hole. That's from the cops when they shot him directly in the forehead. He says, "You said on the phone that you wanted to get to know me. Here I am, Karen." And she sobs. "I want to give you a piece of my mind," he says. And he reaches up to the side of his forehead and starts digging into his skull. And then actually does this, and then does pull out a piece of his brain. And as he does that, this happens. So here's where we get our full-on transformation in front of the camera. I wish I could show, but my goodness, I will get so many copyright strikes if I do that. And we get the nails growing. And here's where we get his chest puffing out and growing and busting the buttons. And he starts to grow and his body's getting taller as he's doing this. And she's watching and she's frozen in fear because she's blocked in the corner. And now is where you have the jaw starts growing and the ears. And here's where you have, like I said, you can see him getting taller as the fingernails are growing. And this is the transformation sequence. And I wanted to mention something. In the DVD with the commentary by the director and the makeup guys, they were actually laughing during this scene. They said, okay. He said, "We know for everybody in the audience," he said, "everybody's screaming at her like, why don't you get the hell out of there? You know, instead of standing there waiting for this guy to turn into a werewolf, why don't you get the hell out of there?" So the movie makers were quite aware of that, but they said, well, the reason why she was there watching him transform is she represents the audience. And if she ran out, the camera would have to follow her and we wouldn't see the transformation. So the only way we can enjoy the transformation is if she stands there and watches the entire thing.
Yeah, that's the only justification I can see.
Right. I don't know if you want to say enjoy the transformation, because I don't think she was enjoying it, but that's the reason for it. Excellent. So you can hear, by the way, this whole time during the transformation, you can hear bones cracking and popping. And here's where she reaches behind her and there's a bottle of clear liquid in it. And the ears are extending. And the jaw starts extending. I know I'm going to get a copyright flag on this. And the jaw is growing and extending, as you can see there. That's why I'll make sure I talk through this as much as possible. And now it looks like the transformation is complete and he's a full werewolf. And just as he does that, she throws acid in his face. And he screams. And that's when she runs out the door. And you can hear roaring behind her. And as you do that, here we have Terry back at the gas station trying to fill it up to head out of town. And of course, this jerk here says, not all of us have enough money for a Mazda. And that is funny because a Mazda is a cheap car. Some of us have to work for a living, he tells them. He says, look, I'm in a hurry. This is an emergency. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure everybody says that. So here we have Karen outside the doctor's office. She makes her way to the car. And just as she gets ready to start the car, she hears bang, bang on the car. And we have these two waiting outside. And she screams. And they say, we've been waiting for you. Here we have them two taking her through the woods. And it looks like they're not planning on letting her go. And so now we are introduced to this big barn where they take her. And it looks like here's all the local residents of the colony. Take some persuading, did you? Said the old man. And there's her friend from the doctor's office there. Unfortunately, it looks like they've been feeding off of her. And we have Marcia looking over. And Karen is sobbing. And she sees all this crazy shit all over the place. And we have the reveal of the doctor. And he comes out. And Karen sees him and thinks, oh, God. And she runs up and starts hugging him. And he says, no. He pushes her away. Because he's not the good guy after all. We have Terry racing through traffic, trying to get there. And she asks, where's Bill? And they say, given time, he would have brought you over to us. Our secret would be safe. You got to have it's a horror movie, and you got to have the bad guys who reveal everything at the end of the whole plan and what's going on. And then now the friend that she met at the barbecue says, when I was first bitten, I fought against it. And then she says, he helped us. You'll see, Karen. He understands all about the gift. They're talking about the doctor. The doctor is kind of like a mentor to the werewolves. And she says he knows how to control it. And the doctor says, you can have Bill back. There's still time if you accept the gift. And Marcia says it was a mistake to bring her to the colony. Or the old man does, that's right. It's a mistake to bring her to the colony. Raising cattle for our feed. Where's the life in that? And humans are our food. And he says, humans are our prey. We should feed on them like we've always done. And then the doctor said, we need to... Basically, the doctor is trying to convince them they need to modernize and get with things. Because if they continue killing people, they're going to eventually be discovered. And the old man says, screw all this channel your energies crap. And the doctor says, but the danger of exposure. And he says, we need to shelter to plan. Times have changed and we haven't. Not enough, he says. And Marcia says, enough. And Marcia's tired of hearing about the doctor. And we cut. And by the way, here's one of the few scenes in the movie. I like this as an old trope, but I always happen to notice it. But you'll notice that this car is on grass. But when it screeches to a stop, you can actually hear a screech like it's on asphalt. And it's so funny when they do that in movies. So he hops out. And there's Karen running around the barn. And now we have the creepy guy, but the first thing is that nice? See what you did? So that was the hand that got cut off under the house. So that was definitely him. If you remember, it was cut off with the axe, and then it grew back to a human hand. And right now, at this point, it looks like it's starting to grow back eventually. What's the matter with you all? Have you forgotten everything you've learned, says Marcia? Now her and the doctor are arguing back and forth. He's right, Marcia. And the doctor says, I won't let you do this. And she scratches the doctor. She reaches up and scratches him in the face. And he hits him with the gun in the stomach. So at this point, the doctor is not on their side anymore. Or vice versa. And the old man says, you can't tame what's meant to be wild, Doc. And back to the doctor's office, we have Terry arriving. And there's a tape playing with the doctor's voice. Violence is part of the human condition, as history shows us. Coping with that fact, living with it presents each of us with moral choices. And he's looking around for Terry, and all he sees is mayhem. Fortunately, most of us are able to deal constructively with those choices. The tape continues. But for others, the animal lure of mayhem, the physical sensation of life and death struggle. Terry and also says, according to the autopsy reports, Eddie's victims were bitten, almost as if they'd been attacked by an animal. And the doctor says, "What can you tell me about lycanthropy?" The doctor says, "Where do you learn that term?" This is all recording on the tape as he's looking through the office. You think he'd be a little more worried about Terry or about his wife, but oh well. So he sees he's got the file on Marcia and some of the others, and he grabs it. Oh, Christopher, you're not going to believe. Now, here's where he hears his wife on the phone as she was calling him. Eddie the werewolf had happened to record that. So he hears his wife on the tape recorder saying, "Oh, Christopher, you're not going to believe this." And he backs up Disney backs up to the door. Eddie grabs through the door and grabs the gun and takes it away from him.
Well, Eddie's the one who did it because, like, we'll see what's going on because he did it on purpose.
Oh yes, yes, and that it's like just like with the two before, it's like he's playing with them.
Oh yeah, for sure. This dude's a sadistic monster.
And the man says, "Eddie," and then Eddie says, "I don't know you. Now, why is that?" And he said, "Where is she? Why? Is she your girlfriend?" He says. "Where's Terry?" He says, "Just down the ritual center." So he's talking about she's at the barn, down the path. That's where Wagner sends us to unwind. Wagner is the doctor. He's so repressed. "What did you do to her?" He says. "She's got a sexy voice," he says. And at this point, she's screaming in the tape recorder as he's killing her. And he says, "I like a woman with a sexy voice." As he says this, he starts to transform again. Oh, wait, first he says, "Oh, yeah," like that. Listen to this part here. This is where she's dying. And the guy says, "You're crazy." He says, "Oh, I'm much more than that, bright boy. I'm much more." Here. And he gives the guy the gun because he figures that's no danger to him anyway. As we've all seen, he's been shot before. He's been through a lot worse. So he actually gives Terry back the gun, and Terry is surprised. But remember now, Eddie doesn't know that there's silver bullets inside the gun. Only Terry knows that. And he says, "Here, take it. Call it a gift. Come on, bright boy." And he starts tempting him as he starts transforming again. As you can see, his face is burned from acid. And he says, "Don't you know anything?" Oops. Apologize for that. And now we have the transformation again. And this is where the guy puts two and two together, grabs the gun, and fires. And kills Eddie. And as he does that, we cut back to the barn with the rest of the Hicks from the convent or the colony. Put her and her friend in a car. So what they want to do is they're going to put Karen and the dead friend inside of a car, and they want to stage it to make it look like an accident. Pour gasoline over him, set him to fire, and push him off the east road. So as they enter or they exit the barn, here comes Terry with his gun, who happens to arrive. TC says, "The gun won't do you any good, mister." TC is the guy from the barbecue, by the way. And he says, the gun won't do you any good. And now we have the guy with the fur advancing on him. And of course he says, "Stop, you better stop." And the guy doesn't. And as you can see, the guy starts turning into a werewolf. And we get the fingernails growing. And Terry fires, we'll get here in a second. The fangs grow. And he starts to, of course, metamorphosize. And that's when he shoots him with the gun. And everybody's stunned for a moment because they're not expecting that to happen. So Karen uses that advantage to get away from TC, the guy from the barbecue. And now they're all standing around because they don't understand it. Now they're looking up in surprise. And that's when he tells them, "I have silver bullets in here." And this is where he said, "Silver bullet to my ass. Get up, TC." As he starts changing into a werewolf. Oops, he gets shot too. And then once again, he's surprised and falls to the ground. And now we have the doctor. This is an excellent, and here's what he explains, by the way. If you guys didn't catch it by watching the movie on your own, I'll explain what's going on here. But this is another reason why the old man was grieving by the fire. where he says, "Oh, I just want to end it. I want to end it all." And he was trying to get it in the fire. So what happens is the doctor. You guys got to remember, the doctor is human. He's not a werewolf. They were just using him because he's basically almost like a familiar for vampires. So at this point, the doctor knows what's going on, and he advances on Terry with a gun. And Terry's confused. Terry doesn't know that the doctor's human. And he tells the doc, "Don't come any closer, doc, please." And the doc still continues walking forward. And Terry shoots him. And then the first thing the doctor says is, "Oh, thank God." So the doctor wanted to die because he would rather die from this bullet than being attacked by all of them. And the reason why the old man was saying, "I want to end it, I want to end it, it can't go on like this," is because they're immortal. That's why the old man was tired of it when he said his teeth doesn't work anymore. And he just wants to end it because once they're a werewolf, they're immortal and they don't die. So it's like eternal suffering.
Well, not only that, but like the doctor had been scratched, so he was going to turn into a werewolf.
Oh, now at this point, yes. Right. He wasn't before, but you're right. Now he would be because he was scratched.
Yeah.
Which, of course, he doesn't want to happen. So he says, "Thank God," when he gets shot. Now is here where they all start getting mad and they all start transforming. All the townspeople. And there's Marcia with 2 different color eyes. And he wards them back with the gun and shoots them off. Oops. And they lock him inside the barn. And they use TC's gun, the guy from the barbecue. They take his gun and they put it up through the lock to hold the door shut. And then Terry grabs gasoline and starts putting it around the barn. And they say, "Where's Terry? They killed her." And I think that's right. Terry's the wife. Sorry about it. I keep getting the names mixed up. And then Terry says, "I think they killed her. I think Bill's too." Now we show the werewolves on the inside, and they're panicking because the barn's on fire. They know what's going to happen. By the way, a lot of stock footage from old Roger Corman movies. And there are the werewolves panicking, trying to get out from the fire. There's the doctor who's now dead. And he says, "Come on, come on." And they get to the car. And of course, like the typical trope from a horror movie, the car is having trouble starting. And unfortunately, they're being attacked. And it is a convertible. The werewolf reaches through the roof and tears through it. And they fire at whoever attacks them. There's a few werewolves. So they fire at him, and the car is able to start, and they drive off. And here's where the sheriff stops him as a roadblock. And now we get the reveal that the sheriff is also a vampire. Oh, sorry, werewolf.
Yes. That reveal that totally wasn't ruined by me. My apologies, everyone.
No, it wasn't. No, you're fine. And so what happens is they pull over, they see the sheriff, they think it's just the sheriff, but then they realize that maybe it's not the sheriff when he starts firing at them with the gun. Like that. And now they get out of the car and they run. And they get into the cop car and try to escape. And there they are, engine sputtering, of course, got to get it started. And here we have werewolves advancing on the car. And I like this where it shows their claws actually scratching the glass. And they're attacking the car from all the different directions, and she's screaming. And they're rocking the car, trying to bust the glass. And he shoots through the glass and kills that one. Gets the car started, and it takes off. And unfortunately, one of the werewolves busts through the back window and bites her in the shoulder. And she's trying to fight it off, and she grabs the gun, and she shoots it. And she's crying. And he's kind of trying to comfort her because they both realize what's going to happen at this point. She turns back and sees that it's Bill. So that was her husband, actually, that was the werewolf that attacked her and bit her. And we have to warn people, Chris, she says. We have to make them believe. So now they're heading back to town. Ooh, I want to try to get that. This is stop motion, but it looks really cool. I'm not going to be able to without getting a flag. There we go. When the werewolves are howling, so we saw that maybe some of them may have escaped the burning barn. And so we have later back at the newsroom, and she's having makeup put on her, and they're telling her you'll be just fine. And she clears her throat. I'm not sure I can go through with this, and he says you have to. And the producer says 5, 4, 3, 2. And now they got her on camera, and this time the production manager, or the studio manager, says keep an eye on her. If she goes crazy, get ready to cut to another camera. Well, good evening. More word on that fire that's burning up the coast tonight. Says you now. Remember now they're talking about the fire up at the colony in the barn. Firefighters have discovered the blaze seems to have started at the colony. Founded by author and behavior expert Dr. George Wagner. And now they're talking about Karen. She's ready. How does she look? All right to you. So there she is staring at the camera. And the reporter continues, reports so far indicate that bodies have been discovered, both inside and outside the colony building, in what authorities on the scene are calling a Guyana-like spectacle. So that's a reference to the Jim Jones Guyana suicide. Now for an exclusive eyewitness report on the incident.
I didn't catch that. That's crazy.
Yeah, we made everybody drink Kool-Aid.
Yeah, well, I am very well aware of Jim Jones. I just didn't catch the reference.
Yeah, can we catch up on the chat here?
Yes, thank you, Gorilla. I appreciate it. Sorry.
Hungry says, hi, yes, Scogly. To be fair, some people freeze in panic, says Hungry. Scogly says, good, solid bone breaking is hot. It always levels up a scene. Scogly says, hi, Hungry.
Absolutely.
I didn't see it there. Then Lemon Pie Lady says, Scogly. So, there we go.
My only issue with the scenes with the bones popping and breaking is that, like, no one seems to react like it's painful. In other werewolf movies, they do. They accentuate the fact that it is so painful is what drives them to be so animalistic and brutal.
Yes. Are we caught up with the chat?
Yes.
Okay. So here we have, we're getting ready to cut to the reporter. So the other reporter is now pretty exclusive eyewitness report on the incident. We welcome back. Now here's what the studio manager says. If she shows any sign of freezing like the last time, go right to a commercial. So the director says, take one. And she's still nervous and shaking, but she's talking. And she says, good evening. From the day we were born, there's a battle we must fight. And if you notice, what she's reading is not the teleprompter. So she's not doing what she's supposed to. She's reading from what she wrote herself in the notes in front of her. Struggle between what is kind and peaceful in our natures. And this is where the studio manager says, what the hell is this? An editorial? Because remember now, he wasn't expecting this. And she continues, that choice is our birthright as human beings. And the real life that differentiates us from the animals is as natural to us as the air we breathe. And here's where this, did you pass this material? She's not reading from the prompter, he says. And he says, well, we changed it a little. And she continues, secret society exists and is living among all of us. And neither people nor animals, but something in between. And this is where the studio manager thinks that she's crazy. And he starts laughing. And he says, neither people nor animals, but something in between. Monstrous mutations whose violent natures. And then now the director says, take one, must be satisfied. So they think that she's basically off her rocker. I know what you're thinking because I've been here where you are, she says. And they tell him to cut, and he says, no, leave it. Cut, and he says, no, leave it. So he won't let them cut the camera to something else. And she's all, tonight I'm going to show you something to make you believe. And then she reaches up, she looks up and screams and starts transforming into a werewolf live on TV. And I think this is now where he's starting to realize that maybe she wasn't completely crazy. And of course, the announcer next to her says, holy shit, and he gets out of there. And poor Karen screams. And here we have people home watching TV. And he says, what is that? And the little kids say, what is this? And he said, wow, what are you kids watching? The news lady turned into a werewolf. And the guy at the bookstore says, oh boy. And we have this guy speaking in Spanish at a bar. And then we have Karen as a werewolf. and he knows what to do at this point. Excuse me a moment.
Oh. There's one, the werewolves in this were kind of creepy. I will say that.
I mean, that looks like a Shih Tzu to me. So like this one, I'm just like, did they film someone's dog? Like, what's going on here? Like,
I
I don't
remember my
understand.
sister saying, "What? She looks cute. She doesn't look like the other werewolves."
No, she doesn't at all.
So I'm guessing either she's not completely transformed, or they just don't want to make her look really hideous because she's a star of the movie. Maybe
Or she's a half breed.
Maybe.
possible. Maybe it's because it's her first transformation. So she growls, and he knows what to do, and he picks up a gun, and the camera follows. It's a great shot. The camera follows along the whole entire barrel of the gun, and he fires. And then that's when the studio ahead says, "Switch, switch, damn it, switch!" And they cut to this dog food commercial. And then we have a bar somewhere, the people watching TV saying, and you hear the voiceover of the commercial, tender, meaty chunks of tantalizing nutrition soaked in. And one guy at the bar says, the things they do with special effects these days. So what about the guy in the spaceship? And then the other guy says, it was real. She turned into a werewolf and they shot her. And then the bartender asks the
You're
guy,
hammered,
hey,
Bill.
right, you're hammered. He says, maybe so, but it was real. Hey, Ernie, put that pepper. Right. And he said, hey, Ernie, put that pepper steak on for me, will you? And the bartender says, and a hamburger steak for the lady. And we cut next to him.
And the reveal.
How do you want it, honey? And she says,
Raw or rare.
So we cut to the hamburger patty. God, I still remember watching this at the drive-in, and here's where all the lights came up because it was the second movie. And we have the credits was just it's pretty much a scene of a hamburger cooking. So it's kind of yummy.
Yes. It's food porn, basically.
Yes. Associate producer Rob Botten, there he is, a fantastic makeup effects guy who went on to do The Thing, which I'm sure we're all aware of, which I will be covering eventually. But he was very young when he did this. That's why Stan Winston kind of held his hand through the making of it. Special makeup effects created by Rob Botten. See, you see this Rick Baker's name? A lot of those guys went into big makeup effects. And we get our ending credits. Okay. Well, that should cover that. So there we go. And we're doing pretty good. It's only 8:06. So we're at 2 hours and 6 minutes. So I'm glad we I feel bad. I'm sorry, everybody. I apologize if it seemed like I rushed through kind of quick, but I didn't want to keep everybody up super late like last time. How are we doing on chats, Gorilla? Do we need to get caught up on anybody before we give our grade?
Oh, we got two. We got Skogly saying Lemon, and Hungry says, I wanted a burger at the end of this film. We all got burgers, LOL.
Yes, I remember me too. It's like, well, that looks really good. Okay, so I did put a poll in the chat asking you guys to vote. If you feel up to it, please consider voting and give us your grade on what you think about this movie, if you've seen it. And if you have not, I hope it makes you want to see it. And if you enjoyed the stream tonight, please consider hitting the like button. If you haven't already subbed to my channel, please consider doing that. I have other things as well. If you're watching this on a rerun, also, I hope you enjoyed it. And please consider coming back on a live stream sometime. We do this every Tuesday for our horror sci-fi streams. And I see Hungry Boy says, great job, guys. Thank you, Hungry Boy. And Hungry Boy, please, can you... Yeah, I'm going to be talking about a Hungry Boy, but I guess I'll bring it up now. I was going to do it towards the end of the stream, but next week's going to be my birthday, so I'm going to do some birthday streams. So I know last week for Nemesis of Eden's birthday, he chose Tremors. And next week, mine's going to be Little Shop of Horrors from 1986 with Rick Moranis and Ellen Green. So I hope you guys can join us. If you have not seen the movie, I'll put some links out there in my community where some links that you should be able to find it with no problem at all. It's a very popular movie. And try to find the director's cut if you can. There's two different cuts. There was one with a theatrical ending, which is not very good. Then there's the director's cut. And the director by the famous Frank Oz. He did a lot of Muppet work with the Muppets, and he also did the voice of and the mechanical work of Yoda from Star Wars. So, vote in the chat for what grade you'll give the movie, and let me share that really quick. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. By the way, thank you for voting, everybody. End poll, and then I will pop out the chat. There we go. Try to get through this as quickly as possible and painlessly. Okay, here's our poll. What grade would you give to Howling? So we have A plus to A minus is a 37%, B plus to B minus 25%, C plus to C minus 25%, and D plus to F minus 12%. All right.
Hey, do not blame that F on me. Do not blame that F on me.
I wasn't planning on doing that.
I'm blaming you.
No, I'm always happy with the votes. It was almost even the first three. So I don't really don't mind. As long as people voted, that makes me happy. That means everybody has an opinion, which I always respect. Okay, so without further ado, Gorilla, I'm going to highlight you really quick here. Can you give us your review, your grade, or your review of the movie really quick, and tell us about your channel, please?
I mean, it was an alright horror film there. You notice I didn't have much to say throughout the whole review there. It's an alright flick, but I didn't have much really to talk about there, in my opinion. And maybe it's just because I'm not much into horror as much horror as I probably could be, and maybe some other werewolf films probably ruined it for me, and that too. Maybe it was that. I don't know. I just didn't have. But I will be generous on this, and I'll give it a B there because.
Oh, cool.
But the reason it's not like an A or nothing is I was kind of half paying attention to it also when I was watching it. I kept getting distracted.
Sorry to hear that.
But I still had a good time and all that. But I'm gonna be generous on it. Give it a B.
I appreciate that. And tell us about your channel.
Well, lots of different shorts there. I'm gonna try to, if I remember here, I'm gonna try to get another short out tonight. But otherwise, do a lot of gamings whenever I have time. Like tonight, I didn't get a chance to. But tomorrow night we're on episodes 5 through 8 of End of the Fucking World. Friday, Walter's review of the what is the I can't remember. It's the one where they hook the uncle up.
That's okay. Everybody check out Gorilla's Random Thoughts channel, and he'll be posting that shortly.
Yeah, then on Saturday there I will be doing Babylon 5. Then I do got the thumbnail made. Finally got the thumbnail made for Sunday. There, if you want me, I can present that real quick.
Sure.
There we go. This is the thumbnail.
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Starring the Swayze.
And Roundhouse.
Yeah, I just had to put that in there. So, for the people that can't read it says, so this movie is about a guy whose house is on the road. So in our RV movie, then I got Germ saying, all right, that's it. Where did I put that rusty butter knife?
All right. So, yeah, that's on Sunday. Everybody check that out.
Yeah.
And Nemesis of Eden. Please tell us what you thought of this movie, and feel free to be completely honest, and then tell us about your channel.
Okay, yeah, I'll be honest. I was pretty bored throughout most of it. The transformation scenes are what uplifted the movie for me, 100%. But I was like Gorilla, man. I was just, for the first hour, it was a slog to get through. It's a serious movie. It takes itself seriously, but at the same time, there's nothing really that happens.
Well, another thing too is you guys have seen other movies that have been made since to where they throw werewolves at you left and right from the beginning of the movie. So it's back when this came out, it was new, and it was in fact like I said, American Werewolf in London hadn't even came out yet at this point. So But I know
right?
back
But
now, if
like
you look at it from, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, even if you look at like Alien, though, like they didn't show the alien throughout most of that movie, but there were still kills left and right. Like there was
Yes.
all of the killing started at that last half an hour of this movie, and so for the most part, it was boring. Like thank God we had Marsha. Like at least we had some eye candy to look at and some awesome like some great boobs. Oh my god, well, great everything. My goodness, she's fantastic. But for the
Yes.
other than that, it was hard, man. So I will, and even giving the fact that it was one of the earlier werewolf films, like it clearly, like there's Lon Chaney and other ones before that. But for the
Right.
practical effects that it did, and for the last half an hour, I would probably give it a solid C plus to a B minus.
Very cool. And tell us about
Yeah.
your channel,
So
please.
okay, I do gaming predominantly. I've been playing a lot of Hitman 2. I'm doing Subnautica. I do fighting games like Dead or Alive 6 as well. So check me out for that. And I'm trying to put out more shorts because YouTube needs me to do that apparently. So yeah,
Yeah, YouTube likes
I'll
that
be
for some
working on
reason.
that. I don't know, man, but whatever. It is what it is.
I know.
So
Well, you got to
thank
do
you.
what YouTube likes, so it makes sense.
Exactly. So thanks to everyone for being here. I really appreciate you guys.
Oh no, thank you, Nemesis. I appreciate you spending time with us tonight.
Oh, PvP. B
Hey,
minus for
PvP.
PvP.
B minus for PvP. Good to see you, PvP. Glad you could join us. You guys almost done still watching the last 30 minutes, so we'll miss out today. Yeah, sorry about that, PvP, because last week went so late. I was hoping to try to keep it a little short tonight. Um, and I'll do the same next week. I'll try not to run too late because I know there's a lot of people in certain areas that have to get up early in the morning. So I don't want to ruin
Well, it
that
is
for
your
you.
yeah, but it's your birthday stream next week, man. People can watch the rerun or they can come back. Like they
Oh, yeah.
right? Like
Well, I think it'll be entertaining. I hope it'll be fun. If you guys have not seen Little Shop of Horrors, please watch it. Like I said, I'll be posting a link in my community tab where you guys can view it from. There's like 2 or 3 different websites where it should be okay. And once again, I'll stipulate, please try to find the director's cut, and I'll put that in the notes. And as far as the Howling, uh, because I saw this in order of werewolf movies. Because as a kid, I grew up with the Werewolf of London. Uh, the werewolf movie with Lon Chaney Jr. and all the werewolf movies and the transformation effects. I was hooked on that, even from the old days when they used to do frame by frame, where they would slowly attach hair to his face, and he would lay in a chair for hours. And so when I saw this, it was a totally new thing. So it just blew me away. And yes, the first part of the movie is slower, but I guess because, like I said, it was a big payoff because I had never seen something like that before. And even looking back now, I admit, yes, a lot of the newer movies show a lot more werewolf transformations, but they just don't seem to be practical effects anymore. It seems to be mostly CGI, which is just not my thing. So that's why when people ask me about a lot of modern day werewolf movies, I tend to say, well, unless it's practical effects, I'm probably not going to watch it because, like I said earlier, I still don't see it believably. It does not look believable on camera to me. It looks like a cartoon. But I give the movie an A for that reason. In my opinion, I'm old fashioned, but this is my favorite werewolf movie. But I will tell you, my top three is The Howling, American Werewolf in London, and Silver Bullet. And I'm hoping to carry that also. That's another one you guys might think it's kind of slow, but I'm not always for flashy special effects and roller coaster rides. Sometimes I'm a big Alfred Hitchcock fan, so sometimes I like the slow build up and the dread and the fear and the suspense, which is something that is like totally lacking in horror movies these days. People don't have the patience for it anymore. They want to have jump scares every 30 seconds. And I think that's really sad. So that's my review. And this is Tuesday night. Tomorrow, catch Gorillas, Random Thoughts, and myself back on this channel. We're going to cover 2 episodes of Good Old Gilligan's Island, like we always do. And I'm hoping to have one of my open topic streams, Rumblings from the Lab, this weekend, where everyone's invited and you can talk about whatever you want. Anybody can be on the panel, anybody and everybody. That's usually fun, and I haven't done one in a while, so we really need to get caught up. And then next Monday, we're going to be covering, I believe, episode 7 of Lost in Space, the original series. My Name is Nobody, I think is the name of it. And then, like I said, Tuesday is going to be it'll be my first YouTube birthday. I've been on YouTube actually several years, but I've never told anybody before when my birthday comes around. I'm not somebody who likes a lot of attention, but everybody seems to be doing birthday streams, so I figure, oh well, I'll go ahead and do it too. So, and like I said, my choice is going to be the 1986 Little Shop of Horrors, which if you have not seen it, please try to watch it. I'll be putting links and try to pay attention. Don't have it running in the background. Don't be doing 2 or 3 different things while you're trying to watch it. Please try to pay attention to it. The music was done by Howard Menken and Ashman. I can't remember the other guy's name, but they did a lot of Disney work in the days. They worked on like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and a lot of that. So they're very, very well known for their music. So the Little Shop of Horrors has a fantastic soundtrack. I put it right up there with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And plus, it's a period movie. It takes place like in the 1960s, which I'm really, really fond of. So with that, I think that we gave our review. I wanted to get caught up on how are we doing on the chat? Really, you know where we left off?
I started the last one I read up thought.
I think Hungry Boy, great job, guys. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Hungry Boy says, I went A+. This movie was the first scary werewolf film. There we go. See, there's somebody who, like I said, it's because when I saw it, I think it's probably the same for Hungry Boy, in sequence in horror movies, because like I said, now werewolf movies are all over the place. So it kind of depends on how old you are and how it influences you, at least in my opinion. Scogli is amazing. I've never seen it. Well, Scogli, please give it a chance when you get the opportunity. Lemon Pie says, nice, Pop. Happy birthday in advance. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Hungry Boy says, oh, cool. And Hungry Boy says, fantastic. I'll be there. Great. And Hungry says, it's a fave of mine too, Pop. All right. So there's at least 2 of us who have seen Little Shop of Horrors. And by the way, the cast of that movie is fantastic. And Phantom Boomer says, be nice till it's time to not be nice. Exactly. Thank you, Phantom Boomer. Lemon Pie says, Phantom, I'm here to not be nice and to chew gum, and I'm all out of gum. Right. There's a reference to They Live. And PvP says, you guys almost done? Still watching last 30 minutes. There we go. So we'll miss out today. Sorry about that, PvP. B- for me, says PvP. Well, thank you for your review or your grade, PvP. Scogli says, I've gotten thousands of views from stupid, pointless little shorts. I know, but that seems to be what people like. So I can't seem to come up with any ideas, but I need to do it if I want to help my channel. It's not really advancing as fast as some other ones, but I don't care. I appreciate the subs that I do have. For me, it's not quantity, it's quality. And Hungry Boy says a fave for me, LOL.
I would agree, Pop. It's not about having thousands of fans. It's about having good quality fans like we have here.
Yeah, because I think I have the best subs. I mean, honestly, I'm not just saying that, but it's the truth. I really, you guys are terrific. And PvP says, I was glad to see
your subs are better than my subs. No, I'm kidding.
Ooh, that isn't that fat words there, oh? Okay.
Oh, I know, right? Oh man, no, it's
A lot of our subs are the same. Yeah, a lot of them are kind of crossover. A lot of we have the same subs on our different channels. And if we don't, we eventually do because we visit each other's channels all the time.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Like even with the birthday streams, right? I know it makes you uncomfortable, but it's going to drive your stream, and it's going to draw people in.
Well, I don't know if it'll draw people in or not, but it's basically I'm doing it for you guys.
Oh well, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to Little Shop of Horrors, man. I've never seen it before.
And I love it. I can't. I almost have it memorized. I'm ashamed to say that I've seen it so many times. When I bought a full featured 7.1 surround sound system that was like a 500 watts. It sounds like a little bit now, but it was like 500 watts per channel. This is one of the first things I had to put in to see what it sounded like in true surround sound. PvP says, I was glad to see the Space Cowboy from last night. Found his way home, LOL. Yes, referring to War Notes from Lost in Space. Good film, quality TNA. Yes, PvP, you're absolutely... Yeah, I'm sorry you missed the scene with Marsha in the fire, but I think PvP knows what we're talking about. Practical effects, very well done, says PvP. Lemon Pie says, thank you, Pop. Gorilla Nemesis will thank you, Lemon Pie. Hungry
Thank you,
Boy says,
Lemon. You rock,
Yep,
buddy.
thank you.
Henry Hull is still my number one, LOL, says Hungry Boy. And PBP says, my main problem, didn't Dr. Macnee realize his colony was full of monsters? Well, he
Yeah,
knew
he
the
was
whole
trying to
time.
help them. That was the whole point.
Right, he was trying to guide them to the modern era because he was saying that if they didn't calm down what they were doing, they were going to be discovered and eventually be extinct. And PBP says, no, my friend Mr. Nobody. That's it. Thank you. That's the name of the next Lost in Space episode. One of Lost in Space's best episodes. I agree. PBP says one of the best Penny episodes. Yes, that is too. That gives her a chance to highlight her character. And PBP says Howling was good, just a bit slow paced until the last part. Well, think about this, guys. Everybody talks about Halloween being an extreme masterpiece, but that was, product of its day. I don't think a lot of action really kicked in until the second half of the movie or the last half hour. But if you'll notice, then that seemed to be how movies were back then. And plus, they didn't have the budget they do now. Even The Thing, when you think about it, it was kind of a slow starter. Lemon Pie says, I saw it years ago. All right, so Lemon Pie's seen it before. Skogly says, I'm stoked to finally watch it, and that is for your birthday show. It's super awesome. I'll be happy to be. Well, thank you, Skogly. And especially coming from a fantastic musician like yourself with great taste in music. So I can't wait to see you. And I think I'm caught up. I don't care about stream elements. They can jump off a cliff for all I care. So thank you for everybody in the chat. I appreciate, like I said earlier, all of you spending your time with me. I know your time is very valuable. So it really does mean a lot to me, and I mean that sincerely. And especially, I want to thank you on the panel, fellow panelists, Gorilla's Random Thoughts, and Nemesis Beat. And Nemesis, I promise by next week I'll have a horror intro. Because since I've been ill lately, I haven't been doing much editing. But I promise, I've been telling everybody, Nemesis, that all my other streams, I have some sort of intro. And right now I have my stock generic one. And I want to have a good customized horror sci-fi intro. I've got to come out. For me, it's almost like writer's block, except for where I stumble is the format of how I want it to look on screen. Once I figure out how I want it to look, then it all comes together. So it'll be clips of old horror movies, not necessarily old, but clips of horror movies, and I'll assemble them together. And I've got to find good music to go along with it. Obviously, something that won't be triggered by the copyright gods upstairs. So I usually go for Creative Commons, or I try not to do public domain because I still get stricken by public domain stuff. And
I mean, if you happen to know a really kick-ass musician in the group, Stokely.
I know Skogly's fantastic.
Yeah, you shouldn't get getting hit by stuff that's in the public domain. I'd be fighting that really hard.
Oh no! One of the first opening sequences I put together was the one we've all seen on Jill's channel, the intro for TOS, and I used Mars, the Bringer of War, that music is all public domain, but I got a warning. So then I thought, well, I'm just going to stay away from that then. So I use Creative Commons. That way I know I'm not going to have any questions in the future. They're going to bite me in the rear end. And let's see if I cover everything. Skogly says, I made some creepy music. I'll send it to if I can. I'll send it by you. Can you use it if you like it or not? That's totally fine. Well, really, Skogly, if you do, thank you. That really means a lot. And I will give you full credit for it. I promise. I'm definitely willing to give credit where credit is due. That's very kind of you. I know that's not something easy to do. And I know it's very time consuming. PvP says, well, the Lost in Space intro is good fun. Well, thank you, PvP. I enjoy it too. When I make the intros, I try to make it sort of match the theme and the mood of whatever the streams are. And Captivinity says, the public domain music warning. Whoa, yeah, unfortunately. You guys are all aware of A Whole Stops the Planets, right? It's where he does, right? Music about each different planet. And I try to use Mars, Bringer of War, and nope, got a warning.
I was going to say immediately, I'm like, oh, yeah, I know Mars, Bringer of War, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been great.
We would have got copyright struck, no.
PvP says YouTube copy stuff is nuts. Right. So I found out that if you get a warning, you have to go back and completely replace it. So I thought, like the old saying is, better safe than sorry. So I found a few good sites that have really good selection of music. And those are the ones that I've been using, like you guys have heard on my Gilligan's Island intro, the Lost in Space intro, and like Jill's and stuff like that. So that way, when I know that I don't like using YouTube music. YouTube has a library of music, but unfortunately, everybody uses it and everybody knows it. Every time I try to pick a music, everyone says, "Oh yeah, so and so's using that on their channel too," and I'm like, "Oh, forget it." So I found some really good sites where I can find some good music that seems to match without everybody knowing about it. So a little bit of originality usually helps. When you put me as special guest star, I had a good laugh. I'm much nicer than Dr. Smith, though. It says BBB, yes, you are. Not quite as nefarious.
All right,
Yes.
Pop. If you get stricken by something that's in the public domain, you fight it, and mark when it went into the public domain and why it went into the public domain, there on the thing, and it should release it pretty relatively quickly.
I know, but I just don't want to bother with the time. And yeah, and here's another thing I found out about public domain is let's say like Mars, the bringer of war. Let's say yes, it's in the public domain, and I put it on a stream. What'll happen is it'll say you got a warning, and it's not from Mars bringer of war, but somebody else used it on their channel, and they're claiming copyright. So that's another thing that seems to be happening.
You got to fight that, or else it'll keep happening.
I don't want to. No, I don't want to fight it. That's what I'm saying is I'd rather just use music that nobody's heard of. It's much easier in the long run. The only thing I've had to fight so far is if I show clips from movies. And so I want to try to keep the animosity to a minimum whenever I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of, I understand where you're coming from, Pop, but I also understand where Gorilla's coming from. You can't just let random assholes dictate their, no, I own this music. It's like, no, you don't.
I know, and they do. They do. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, fight, because if they keep posting false copyright claims like that, they used it on their channel, but something that's in the public domain, if they do that too many times, their channel will get taken down.
Well, you can always hope.
No, it's in their policy.
Hungry Boy, yeah, but how many times, and I'm sure eventually it'll happen, but I don't want to be the person to have to fight and to prove the point. But Hungry Boy says it was used in a 1956 quartermass by the BBC Pop. You talking about the quartermass experiment? Oh, yeah, I'm aware of those movies. They're fantastic, actually. And Stream Elements, you can get screwed. And that's the last of the chat. Okay, so I think we're all in the chat. And once again, everybody, if I missed your chat, please let me know. We do always respect everyone, and we try to read every chat because that means most to us above and beyond everything else. So once again, here we are in exactly 2.5 hours. So thank you guys for your patience and for you spending your time. Like I said, it's very generous of you. And if you work tomorrow, please try to get sleep early at night. I don't want to ruin your night for you. Drive safe in the morning, and I hope you can join us tomorrow for our Gilligan's Island stream. So with that, let me get my closer up here. Got a little closer somewhere.
Thanks.